Kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs. Visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Mike Gallagher points out the ultimate troll.
The behavior of Gavin Newsom is so wild, where he's got this shtick down now where he's trying to mimic Trump. And J.D. Vance was asked about it and said, I love his line, he's going to make him crazy. You talk about a real troll? Here's trolling. You can't mimic the king.
The Mike Gallagher Show. Weekdays at 9, right before Charlie Kirk at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
It's September 18th, and this is your Fox Daily Snapshot. Today is Air Force Day, commemorating the establishment of the Air Force as a separate branch of the military in 1947. The Air Force can trace its roots back to the Civil War when they were first established as the Signal Corps, and their job was to provide visual communication from aerial balloons using flags or torches. President Harry Truman's signing of the National Security Act in 1947 has allowed the Air Force to push the boundaries of technology and become the swiftest tactical force within the military. Also on this date, in 1899, The Maple Leaf Rag by ragtime composer Scott Joplin was copyrighted by the U.S. Copyright Office. Also in 1947, the National Military Establishment began its first day of operations. We all know it today as the Department of Defense. If it's your birthday today, you share it with Hockey Hall of Fame coach Scotty Bowman, born in 1933. I'm Tushar Saxena, and that's your Fox Daily Snapshot.
Summer's over. It's time to Go-Birds. Raise a stein and join in song as we celebrate fall for all. Kids from 2 to 92 can romp and play and explore all day. Ride a helicopter, ride a pig, ride a train, ride a plane, and see a pumpkin-eating dinosaur. And Oktoberfest weekend means cold beer at the Pumpkin Pub and the beer bin for the grown-ups. And for the little ones, there's so much to explore. Meet the animals, from our famous Go-Birds giraffe to classic farm friends. From the carousel and the pumpkin slide to the giant jumping pillow and the haunted mansion. Chow down on yummy burgers, pizza, sausage, tacos, and more. Go-Birds Farm is fun all fall. Don't miss Oktoberfest, September 19th through 21st, with adults only after 8 p.m. on Saturday. Tickets and details at gobirds.com. Fall is here. It's time to Go-Birds. Go-Birds Farm, Pingree Grove, just off I-90. GOEBBERTS.com.
President Trump has made some pretty amazing claims since he's taken his seat as president. He's delivering on what he promised. On Inauguration Day, Trump's very first declaration was,
"The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish."
Consider this. Since the election, gold has shot up hundreds of dollars per ounce, shattering all-time record highs. Fox Valley Coins does not pretend to know the future, but they do know that if you're buying or selling gold or silver, they are the place to do it. These are some of the top reasons people choose a dealer. You want a national dealer with a local presence you can deal with face-to-face. You want a large selection, the best prices, and great service. You want to walk in with cash and walk out with the best product. You want to deal with legacy dealers with integrity. Whether buying or selling or just one valuation, Fox Valley Coins is your answer for choosing a dealer. Visit Fox Valley Coins, 1 light north of I-88 on Route 59 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. FoxValleyCoins.com. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, their award-winning tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Find the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief today for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss and your gain. MyPillow is offering the Classic Collection for wholesale prices. Only $19.98 for a standard MyPillow. But it gets even better. For a limited time, they're going to offer the entire Classic Collection at wholesale prices. Get queen-size MyPillows for just $24.98. Upgrade to king-size for only $29.98. Get the body pillows for $39.98. And the multi-use MyPillows for only $12.98. So go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 to take advantage of wholesale pricing and receive $100 in free digital gifts when your order is $75 or more. That's right. Get the standard MyPillow for only $19.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. That number again is 800-489-0201. Promo code LIBERTY.
Perhaps you're a collector. Or perhaps all of a sudden you have a collection. Maybe it's an inheritance. How do you know what it's worth? This is Sean Thompson for Donley Auction. The market for antiques and collectibles is changing all the time. What is your collection worth right now? Well, I've got an easy way to find out. It's simple. You contact Donley Auctions with their worldwide audience of live and in-person auctions. They have a good idea of how to tell you exactly what it's worth at exactly right now. They're ready to put top dollar in your pocket. The bigger the collection, the better. Go to DonleyAuctions.com and get the info on all things that they buy and sell to have an idea of exactly what Donley does and how much they need your collection. They have so many buyers, it's a great time to sell. Just simply make a phone call. Donley has traveled all over the country to pick up collections. Just call and talk to the people at Donley Auctions at 815-923-7000. Donley Auctions is your trusted partner in turning your collections into cash. DonleyAuctions.com.
This is Alistair Begg, inviting you to sail with me next September 5th through the 12th, 2026, on the Deeper Faith Norwegian Fjords Cruise. If you've never been to this picturesque part of the world, the sights are magnificent, and the glacier-carved cliffs demonstrate the grandeur of God's creative handiwork. Throughout the journey, I'll be teaching from the Bible. Together we'll learn from the Scriptures, enjoy a week of fellowship and worship, and stop at several ports where we'll stroll through quaint Nordic villages. This is an opportunity to explore scenes you won't soon forget, all while forming new friendships with fellow believers from around the world. Cabins are limited, so call today at 855-565-5519 or visit deeperfaithcruise.com. 855-565-5519 or visit deeperfaithcruise.com. I hope to see you on board.
Book today at 560theanswer.com/deeperfaith.
People ask us all the time, when's the best time to replace an old air conditioner? Simple. Before it breaks. Because when it does, you know it'll be the hottest day of the year, and suddenly you're scrambling like hundreds of others to get help during a heat wave. At Air-Rite Heating and Cooling, we've seen it all. We know there's never a good time to be without AC, especially in Chicagoland, where the humidity can make 80 degrees feel like 100. At Air-Rite, our experienced technicians don't just work fast, they'll do it right. Browse through our more than 1,500 five-star Google reviews to see what our loyal customers love most about us. If it's been a while since your system was inspected, don't wait for a heat wave before having it checked out. And right now, AM 560 listeners receive $56 off any service. Visit Air-Rite Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air-Rite, doing it right since 1959.
Hey, I'm Steve Wyatt, and I want to invite you to the Wyatt Matters show, which airs every Sunday on this station. You can expect lively discussion and heartfelt reflection that will both entertain and inspire you. And if we do it right, maybe deliver some genuine laughter as well. We talk about not only what matters, but also why it matters.
Wyatt Matters. Sunday morning at 6 on AM 560. The Answer.
When it comes to industrial coating and finishing, cutting corners isn't an option. That's why leading manufacturers across the Midwest trust D&D Industrial Coatings in Racine, Wisconsin. From powder coating and liquid painting to blasting and custom finishing, D&D Industrial delivers top-tier protection and performance, fast, precise, and built to last. With over 40 years of experience, ISO-certified processes, and state-of-the-art lines, D&D handles everything from OEMs and petrochemical to agriculture, marine, construction, medical, and government specs. Family-owned, nationally trusted. Whether it's a short run or high volume, your parts are in expert hands, finished on time and finished right. Visit them today, ddindustrial.net. Again, that's ddindustrial.net. or call them at 262-637-0686 to get your custom quote today. Again, that's 262-637-0686. D&D Industrial Coatings. Engineered to protect. Finished to impress.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call CrossCom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, CrossCom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with CrossCom.
Call CrossCom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call CrossCom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. CrossCom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call CrossCom.
CrossCom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with CrossCom. You can trust us with your home or business for high-quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CrossComPublicAdjusters.com.
Sean Thompson here, and I'm with attorney Bert Hochberg from the law firm of Schiller, Ducanto, and Fleck. We're talking about divorce arbitration. This is not really a new, or is it a new, innovative way to go through divorce?
Arbitration has been around for decades. It's completely legit and available to resolve divorce cases. The litigants and their lawyers sign an arbitration agreement. They identify what the issues are, and we set up dates, and we determine what experts and witnesses there may be. Arbitration is a hearing, a trial that is intended to finish a case efficiently with limited appeal, with a binding decision, and it's confidential, so it has some great characteristics.
I think it's a unique alternative to divorce. For more information, please visit sdflaw.com and type Bert Hochberg into the search box. That's sdflaw.com or call direct 773-255-6150.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere. Delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Pluto TV.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 86. Tonight, skies will be clear with a low of 64. Tomorrow, expect similar conditions with a high of 84, a mix of clouds and sun, and continued warmth. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So this is what the dopey Jimmy Kimmel said about the Charlie Kirk assassination during his monologue on Monday night.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
So that drew this review from Brendan Carr, the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, and a pretty staunch First Amendment advocate. Brendan Carr was on with Benny Johnson on his podcast, and talked about where the FCC has some regulatory power that it may consider exercising with respect to Kimmel and, by extension, the television license holders.
So start from the idea that you have national programmers that create the show, including the Kimmel show, and then they're given to and distributed over licensed TV stations. It's the licensed TV stations that have the public interest standard, including those TV stations that Comcast and Disney own. So FCC regulatory action focuses on those individual stations. And one thing that we're trying to do is to empower those local stations to serve their own communities. And the public interest means you can't be running a narrow partisan circus and still meeting your public interest obligations. It means you can't be engaging in a pattern of news distortion. We have a rule on the book that interprets a public interest standard that says news distortion is something that is prohibited. Likewise, we have a rule that addresses broadcast hoaxes. And so, again, over the years, the FCC has stepped back from enforcing it, and I don't think it's been to the benefit of anybody. Just look at the credibility of these legacy media. It's absolutely through the floor. They used to be able to say at least they were more trustworthy than Congress, but now they're even less trustworthy than Congress. And so I think as a business matter for them, something has to change. And at the FCC, we need to reinvigorate this. So, again, there's actions that we can take on licensed broadcasters. And frankly, I think that it's really sort of past time that a lot of these licensed broadcasters themselves push back on Comcast and Disney and say, listen, we are going to preempt. We are not going to run Kimmel anymore until you straighten this out, because we licensed broadcaster, are running the possibility of fines or license revocation from the FCC if we continue to run content that ends up being a pattern of news distortion. So I think, again, Disney needs to see some change here, but the individual licensed stations that are taking their content, it's time for them to step up and say, this, garbage, to the extent that that's what comes down the pipe in the future, isn't something that we think serves the needs of our local communities. But this sort of status quo is obviously not acceptable where we are.
Well, and then that self-policing happened. Sinclair, the nation's largest ABC affiliate group, issued a statement objecting to the comments made by Kimmel, the one of them, and making light of the situation, meaning one of MAGA, right, as you heard. Sinclair decided to indefinitely preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live beginning last night, and that happened. And they have suspended... Following these discussions, Sinclair reported, ABC has suspended production of Jimmy Kimmel Live. Mr. Kimmel's remarks, inappropriate, deeply insensitive at a critical moment in our country. We believe broadcasters have a responsibility to educate and elevate respectful, constructive dialogue in our communities. We appreciate Chairman Carr's remarks today, and this incident highlights the critical need for the FCC to take immediate regulatory action to address the control held over local broadcasters by the big national networks. Nexstar also followed suit, saying something very similar in terms of the suspension, and then Disney, the content producer side, as you heard from Brendan Carr in that exchange. No return date has been set, but Disney is monitoring the situation and sees a path to the show potentially returning in the next several days, according to a person familiar with the situation who spoke with the Wall Street Journal. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. The enforcement of the public interest regulation that Brendan Carr spoke of. And again, now this comes from somebody who just recently offered a pretty full-throated defense of the First Amendment, telling politicos, I think you can draw a pretty clear line, and the Supreme Court has done this for decades, that our First Amendment, our free speech tradition, protects almost all speech. He suggested in the Politico piece that he remains more concerned about the prospect of government censorship online, invoking the debates about COVID-19, disinformation, concerns raised by Democrats about quote-unquote hate speech. He said, we saw individual Americans participating in the digital town square that were getting censored purely for protected First Amendment speech, for diversity of viewpoints on religious and medical issues. And he was pleased to see a course correction within the social media community. A lot of social media companies have embraced or re-embraced the idea of speech online. I think Musk and X had a great deal to do with that. I was pleased to see Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook join them, but there's clearly more we can do. So on the one hand, he is defending First Amendment and expressing concern about, really about third-party actors doing the bidding of the government in collusion with the government, which is the problem, doing something for the government that the government can't do for itself. That's runs afoul of the First Amendment. On the other hand, there is this licensure, and there is this sort of public interest requirement that you heard him detail, and one wonders, his suggested need to reinvigorate that provision to be tougher on content producers and FCC license holders. Is that the direction you want this to take? Particularly when you're talking about, I don't find Jimmy Kimmel funny. I didn't find him funny on The Man Show or Win Ben Stein's Money either. But it's still a variety show. It's still entertainment. If you choose to take Jimmy Kimmel seriously as a commentator on the news of the day, much less some sort of information source, well, that's on you. But is that something that you want the FCC to be more aggressive in regulating? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Steve on the south side.
Hey, Dan, good morning. I'm a Trump supporter. I voted for Trump. I don't like Jimmy Kimmel. I was also critical of the way Trump answered that question. I didn't like it at all.
Okay, thanks. Well, Steve, you're still there. What about the FCC?
Yeah.
Wait, the FCC clearly, what Brendan Carr had to say carried a lot of weight, and the result was that maybe these affiliate groups, Nexstar, Sinclair, as well as the content producers, were trying to sort of wait this one out. When Brendan Carr weighed in, they moved. So the sort of government intervention here, soft intervention, but intervention nonetheless, the signaling, what's your view on that?
I don't really have a view yet. If it's like, if somebody's celebrating death, then I would expect, them to weigh in and oust them. But what Jimmy Kimmel did, I honestly don't even see anything that bad about it. I hated the way Trump answered that question. I think he was completely tone deaf. I just hope he didn't even hear the question. It pissed me off, to be honest with you.
Thanks for the call, Steve. All right, we'll take more of your calls on this, add a little bit more layering to it as well at 5:38. Now it's time to check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 56 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm John Cruz in for Nikki Whaley in the newsroom. Plenty of sun today, a high near 84 degrees. Federal agents investigating that deadly officer-involved shooting in York County, Pennsylvania. 3 officers dead, 2 others hurt. They're following up on what they're calling a domestic-related incident. That shooter killed by police. Authorities say 1 of 3 people killed in a shooting in Berwyn is a middle school assistant principal. This happened near Lincoln Middle School. That official identified as Narissa Lee. Cook County authorities say they've yet to identify the 2 others killed, including the shooter who took his own life. Now, School District 98 officials say none of the deceased are students at Lincoln Middle School, which was closed yesterday. Classes resumed today. Illinois reporting its first West Nile virus death. State health officials say the victim is a resident in their 60s in suburban Cook County. People can't get West Nile when they're bitten by mosquitoes. Last year, there were 13 deaths statewide. This report sponsored by Blindster.com. Need new blinds? At Blindster.com, they offer guaranteed low prices, guaranteed satisfaction, free samples, and free shipping. At Blindster, they take the fear out of ordering custom blinds, shades, and shutters so you can do it yourself and save big. Blindster.com. A check of your weather coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Hugh Hewitt warns that China is flexing.
Xi Jinping has capped a week of frenetic diplomacy by presiding over one of China's biggest military parades, projecting his nation's growing power in a show of solidarity with fellow strongman Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. Everyone's got to pay attention to what China is doing and what China is saying, and it's very ominous.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
You think your 401k is safe, growing, reliable. But here's the truth. The 401k was never designed to make you wealthy. It was built to shift risk onto you, leaving your retirement exposed to Wall Street crashes, inflation, and chaos. Noble Gold helps Americans roll over part of their 401k into real physical gold. Tax advantage, penalty-free, and shockproof. Get your free wealth protection kit now at noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Why do so many companies count on Riverdale Plating and Heat Treating? Consistent, high level of quality. An ISO certified and A2LA lab accredited heat treating, electroplating, fastener sorting, and packaging job shop. Riverdale Plating and Heat Treating meets and exceeds client specifications. Whether a high volume or small production run, their processes ensure a job well done. Celebrating their 15th anniversary this year, they specialize in metal fasteners and stampings for automotive and other industries, and now have approval from Volvo for zinc nickel plating, along with sorting and packaging options. Riverdale Plating and Heat Treating serves customers in the Midwest and North Carolina, with easy access to all forms of transportation from their automated facility in Riverdale, Illinois, outside of Chicago. Need consistent quality? Call Riverdale Plating and Heat Treating, 708-849-2050, or visit riverdalePHT.com. That's riverdalePHT.com.
Did you know a will alone does not keep your family out of court when you die? The court still has to approve your will, but get a living trust, and your estate can be settled clearly without issue. Talk to the attorneys at Nauman & Associates. They prepare wills and trusts for a flat fee, no surprises, no hourly rate. With decades of experience, they know the law and offer a free consultation. Contact Nauman & Associates in Elk Grove Village, nalawgroup.com. Call 847-593-8777.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 86. Tonight will be clear with a low of 64. Tomorrow will also be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, talking about Jimmy Kimmel being sidelined for the time for now, after FCC Chairman Brendan Carr said in a podcast that there is perhaps some regulatory action the FCC can take with respect to purveyors of disinformation like Jimmy Kimmel, who claimed that on Monday night that it's clear that the person who assassinated Charlie Kirk was a member of the MAGA movement, and that the MAGA movement is doing everything it can to downplay that fact. So obviously that's incorrect. And then he went on to, have some fun at the expense of the president. It's incorrect what Jimmy Kimmel said, perhaps aggressively and purposefully so. But should it draw the attention of the FCC such that you had Sinclair and Nexstar move to preempt his show, and Disney sort of following suit. Everybody sort of moved in unison once Brendan Carr signaled that he was open to having the FCC take a look-see. And even if, I think it's probably a combination of a couple of things. One is just the that sort of regulatory entanglement is something that operators try to avoid. I know, working for a company that is an FCC licensee under the regulatory umbrella of the FCC here and the standards. And secondly, of course, the potential fines if the FCC found culpability, the cost up front, the cost on the back end, the negative attention. So they decided to act before the FCC did. But as I asked, put this out, is this concerning at all that the FCC would be wading into this territory, particularly, as you heard Brendan Carr say, characterizing the show, the content producers, almost like they're held to a standard of acting in the public interest like a news program. The licensees are generally held to that standard, although it's loosely enforced. I mean, it really comes down to things like using profanity or broadcasting, in the television medium, nudity and so forth. Because, otherwise, when it gets into who is distorting the news, oh my goodness, if that's the standard for FCC intervention, distorting the news, then we're going to have a lot of quote unquote news content providers and their distributors having their license pulled, aren't we? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line, and text line. Now, this is not to say that Kimmel is some sympathetic figure, because he's not, but that's exactly the point. You have to make assessments about how things should be governed when you're looking at somebody that you don't like, that you are not inclined to rally to the defense of, because it's easy to rally to the defense of people you do like. This additional note, a source told the Hollywood Reporter that Kimmel was prepared to address the backlash against what he said on Monday night. Last night, planned to explain what he had said, demonstrate how it was taken out of context. I don't know how it was taken out of context, but okay. When the Hollywood Reporter, when asked by the Hollywood Reporter, the source said Kimmel was not planning on apologizing. He felt that what he said did not require an apology. Of course he did. Why admit you were wrong? 180 degrees off from the truth. Why admit that? But again, particularly with respect to an quote-unquote entertainment show, 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line, Marvin, Burlington, Wisconsin.
Good morning, Dan. I think that Jimmy Kimmel said other things that are more offensive. But as a whole, America has got this contagion of being so thin-skinned, and it never used to be that way. I mean, toughen up a little bit, people. I mean, everybody's walking around looking to be offended about this or that or the other thing. So the guy made a very distasteful joke. I mean, people have been doing that on both sides for many years. And I don't think
Jimmy Kimmel himself, he can go back to watching girls bounce on trampolines and impersonating Karl Malone in blackface.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just him. I mean, there's other things that I think, like me personally, is more offensive. I mean, for crying out loud, some of the commercials on TV are so extremely distasteful. Men's erectile dysfunction and other, you understand. It's everybody has an opinion, and okay, some you agree with, some you don't. I mean, I think as a society, you got to toughen up, and if you don't like it, turn it off. I mean, it's like the internet. It's like I've told my kids for years. It's garbage. It's like the old CB radio with pictures. Get off of it. There's nothing on there that's going to help you for the most part. And if you put your stuff on it, it's going to hurt you. Turn it off.
Thanks for the call, Marvin. We talked to Christian Toto, Hollywood and Toto. A few weeks back when Colbert was announced that they would not be re-upping Colbert over at CBS. And he, and then the report was that Colbert Show was losing like $50 million a year. That's bad economics. And Christian Toto told us that Colbert was the most successful of the late night shows, that all these shows are hemorrhaging money. So, part of this may be a way for both the affiliates as well as the content creators here to unwind their relationship with Jimmy Kimmel if it's a financial albatross. Seizing the opportunity when it's presented to itself. Maybe it can obviate the terms of his contract and reduce the payout were they to move against the show, period. Just some supposition on my part. President Trump weighed in. Great news for America. The ratings challenge Jimmy Kimmel show is canceled. Well, that's not quite true. We don't know that yet. Congratulations to ABC for finally having the courage to do what has to be done. Kimmel has zero talent and worse ratings than even Colbert, if that's possible. That leaves Jimmy and Seth, two total losers on fake news NBC. The ratings are so horrible. Do it, NBC. I guess do it, NBC means fire Fallon and Seth Meyers while you're at it. While ABC is at it with Jimmy Kimmel. 312-642-5600 turnkey.pro answer line and text line. Greg in Schaumburg.
Morning, Dan. Just prior to your show coming on, I just listened to a Tucker Carlson piece that he just placed. It's very lengthy. He interviewed Megyn Kelly, and one of the other individuals that he interviewed in it is Scott Adams. And thus, what I'd like to do is pose this question to you. What does a society do about people who maliciously broadcast inaccuracies that the contention might be made that there is a movement, a deleterious movement that can come about as evidenced with the assassination of Kirk? Does a society have a right to protect themselves? And Scott Adams made the point, as did others, particularly Megyn Kelly, that Kirk, when given the opportunity to shut down freedom of speech within various topics that he was discussing, always went with freedom of speech. So, again, I pose to you, is that the only solution that we have? For example, is boycotts now of shows, commercials, etc., is that a legitimate means to do so? Is there anything that a society can do to protect itself against people who maliciously intend to hurt it, even if it comes about in a indirect way?
Thanks for the call, Greg. Yeah, private action. Like you just said, and I mean the left does more so than the right. I'm not one for endlessly calling for boycotts, but that's private action. Organizing people to say we're not going to support this company, taking your own initiative to not support this company or this advertiser. As Marvin from Burlington said, turn it off, don't patronize it. Marginalize it by not patronizing it, making it largely irrelevant and reducing its impact. Because what's the alternative? I mean, it's a nice theoretical concept, protecting society from purveyors of misinformation. Okay, sure. In theory, I'd like everybody to operate only in the realm of the evidence-based. And who gets to decide what that is, and how should it be enforced? To paraphrase Brandeis, right, the cure for speech that you don't like is more speech, not enforced silence. Now, this is not to say that content private action, meaning content providers and licensed affiliates, they have some range too in terms of what they choose to, who they choose to employ, what kind of content they choose to pipe through their channels. But I mean, is this really a space where you want the government to wade in any further than it already is in with respect to its licensing power and some sort of broad standards when it comes to the content produced and aired by its licensees. I mean, the danger, I think, is obvious to all of us. Who decides? And if this is going to be a might makes right, that's who decides. And this is why I was a little surprised, actually, by what Brendan Carr said. I mean, technically, he's right about the public interest provision in the law and in the licensure. And he was also right to say that it's, rarely invoked. But there's a good reason for that. Because you don't want what is allowable to be broadcast, even if it is incorrect, even if it is offensive to you, to be something that's determined by government commissars and whoever appointed said government commissars, trending, from administration to administration. That path should be obvious. That path is fraught with peril. And so the net of it, I would suggest, where that path ends, is a society doing that, saying it's trying to protect itself, ends up exposing itself, not protecting itself. It becomes a path to, an Orwellian government-approved dialogue or monologue. Roosevelt at Midway.
Dan, thank you for taking my call. I'm the opposition. Okay, as recent as last week, Brian Kilmeade from Fox News said that involuntary injection or whatever he said, all he had to do was apologize, and he kept his job.
You mean it was something about like euthanizing the homeless people?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
So, Dan, I don't like what you represent. I don't like what you say. I don't like anything about you.
Okay.
But I don't think anybody should take you off the air because you refer to our mayor as BLM Brandon.
Right.
You never apologized.
Well, I shouldn't. He was a supporter of Black Lives Matter, so that's how he earned the nickname.
Well, okay, but you egg it on, in my opinion. Maybe it's your way of looking at it, my way of looking at it. As recent as a couple of years or a few years, you and your companion made fun of the young man, 17 years old, the governor's son. You guys kept your job.
Yeah.
There was no boycott.
Well, there was an effort by your fellow travelers to do that, but I guess the difference is that was something where I didn't realize that the individual had was on the spectrum, number one, and number two, once I learned that, I immediately apologized and admitted that I was wrong, which I guess separates me from so many of the people that we're talking about in terms of admitting that they were wrong.
Yeah, but I see a difference here, though, Dan. He is a comedian. Comedians maybe, slip up or say the wrong thing. We have to give them the opportunity to apologize. Whether they apologize or not, that's up to them. But you guys are not comedians. You and the young lady that
I'm pretty funny. I'm pretty funny, but
you're not a comedian.
No, I'm not. But with respect to Kimmel, I'm not advocating that he be silenced.
Oh no, I agree. I agree with you. I see your point. But we're going down, in my opinion, a slippery slope. The gentleman that called before me, or one of them, said the right thing. He said, we're too thin-skinned. We're getting to the point that for every action, there's going to be a reaction. And who determines, like you said, to your point, I agree with you, who determines, who sets the rules?
Yeah.
Who gives the punishment?
Yeah. Thanks.
And by the way, Dan, excuse me. Yeah. And the president himself, that's how he got into the scene, by giving people, and laughing at people and giving them, nicknames. And he's still doing it. Pocahontas. You name it. I don't want to go through all of them.
You're allowed to make fun of people, right? That's part of living in a free society.
I agree with you. That's part of the First Amendment.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks for the call, Roosevelt. Yeah, no, I mean, right, and part of the reaction here, and this weighs into cancel culture too, is I've talked about this for the last couple of days actually. The right was decrying cancel culture, people getting fired for their views on Black Lives Matter or DEI or COVID policies and so on and so forth. It's not hypocrisy. Again, the First Amendment is not about the relationship between you and your employee or between you and your employer. It's about a government's restraint on an individual's right to express themselves. So those two things need to be distinguished. But the more important cultural point is the more important cultural point about that. Hold on a second. Let's go to Tina and Joliet. Go ahead, Tina.
Hey guys. So I don't remember hearing Roosevelt call in and complain when Roseanne got ripped off the show that bore her name because she posted a meme about Valerie Jarrett, Barack Obama's buddy. No, there was no outcry from the left about that, about free speech. We have gone through 8 years of conservatives being kicked off social media platforms for a myriad of nothingness. And listen, I'm almost a free speech absolutist. With of course, with exceptions regarding what we've seen recently, but this young man had his throat shot off on video for the world to see. And I'm kind of at a place now where, the left is showing absolutely there's no contrition on their end. There's no, man, maybe there's an issue on our side. I haven't seen any of that, except with the exception of maybe, Anna Kasparian calling out that one psychopath. But other than that, they all pretty much feel like, he deserved it. And so if the scale if we've got to put our thumb on the scale a little bit, and at this point in time, while we can, I'm okay with that.
What is wait, thumb on the scale? I mean, this is why I wanted to take your call. The more important cultural point I was going to make, and you sort of helped me illustrate it, is that we know what they did, and now we want to do something that we objected to. Some of us do. And others of us just want to say, well, I mean, we disagreed with some of the private decisions that were made, and it negatively impacts a culture that should be inclined towards free thought and free speech. But I mean, I don't have to rally for Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, I just say that I don't want the FCC expanding its power or scope, but I don't have to rally for him any more than I would expect people to rally on the left to rally for Roseanne Barr as she has moved towards Trump in that private relationship between her employer and herself at the time. So I guess when we say finger on the scale, what does that mean? I mean, I like I say, you don't have to carry water for people you find distasteful that are losing their jobs for their own poor judgments. But when you start to talk about state action or the threat of state action, that is the impetus for private action, then it becomes a different thing.
Oh, okay. I agree. I completely agree. But sometimes a dose of your own medicine is necessary. And I just feel like and maybe these higher ups, these executives, maybe actually there's some humanity in them, and they're recognizing that we've got a serious problem in this country, and it's time for them to take some action. Maybe that's it. Maybe we're overstating the FCC role in this, and perhaps there's a little bit of a glimmer of hope.
Thanks.
Maybe they see that Jimmy Kimmel's a danger in some way with he's feeding into this doom loop on the left.
Well, thanks for the call, Tina. The only thing, I mean, if America can't sustain itself against the ignorance and lowbrow humor of Jimmy Kimmel, then we're in a lot worse shape than I thought. If we can't overcome, late night talk show hosts with their sort of boilerplate leftism and their cheap one-liners, then we're in a much worse place than I thought. Brian in Wheatfield, Indiana.
Hey, good morning, Dan. I like the market to sort these things out. The other thing is it kind of brings up your point about Pam Bondi yesterday saying hate speech. Again, I agree with you on that. But on the other hand, I've always been sick of the Republicans sitting in the corner and saying, well, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that because they're going to do it to us. So, I kind of see the push and pull here, but I'm with you on just let the freedom and market sort these things out. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks for the call, Brian. George in Naperville.
Yeah, I think the action taken against Kimball shows that sanity does play a role in our culture, and I think it will do some good.
Okay, thanks for the call, George. Phil in Maryville.
Yeah, I seen what Jimmy said. I watched it. He started out, I thought, with just like straight propaganda, a straight lie, and he didn't backpedal to with a joke to show what he was saying. So, yeah, I'm for almost full free speech, but are we supposed to become like a propaganda country, that spreads straight lies and then, changes people's minds that don't look into it? I'd say the only thing that is legit about it, anyone with common sense would know that a conservative wouldn't shoot Charlie Kirk. So,
Thanks for the call, Phil. We'll continue our talk on cancel culture, sort of spin off on this, talk a little bit more about cancel culture, including some local examples at 6:06. It's now 6 a.m. WIND, AM 560.
From pomp to policy. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. President Trump has left Windsor Castle, where he got royal treatment and a state dinner with King Charles.
Together, we've done more good for humanity than any two countries in all of history.
The president is now meeting with Britain's prime minister,
Keir Starmer, who is likely hoping that after yesterday's pomp and circumstance and pageantry, President Trump will be in the mood to accommodate more requests on both trade and security issues.
Fox's Jackie Heinrich in London. Also last night, President Trump posted on Truth Social that he will designate Antifa a major terrorist organization, calling it a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster. In another post, the president congratulated ABC for having the courage, he wrote, to take Jimmy Kimmel's show off the air. It was suspended indefinitely over Kimmel's comments about the Charlie Kirk assassination.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from.
Well, the Utah County prosecutors made public the suspect's text messages suggesting a leftist ideology and a hatred of Charlie Kirk. Some are coming to Kimmel's defense.
SAG-AFTRA issued the statement in support, defending the artists who, quote, have their right to express their diverse points of view. But Sinclair Broadcast Group and Nexstar Media Group, who both own and operate local ABC affiliates, condemn Kimmel's remarks as inappropriate.
Fox's Chanley Painter, we're learning more about Tyler Robinson, the suspected Kirk gunman, and his arrest.
Some information was provided about Tyler potentially having some suicidal ideations, was en route to a remote area of Washington County. The parents convinced him not to do that.
Sheriff Nate Brooksby says Robinson was quiet when he turned himself in. 3 police officers are being mourned in York County, Pennsylvania, killed while serving a warrant. 2 other officers are in critical but stable condition. The gunman was shot dead in return fire. America's listening to Fox News.
WIND, Chicago.
Good morning, 56 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm John Cruz in the AlmostFreeTeeth.com newsroom. Sunny and 84 today. The assistant principal of Lincoln Middle School, one of 3 killed in a shooting Tuesday in Berwyn right outside the school. North School District 98 officials announced Wednesday the assistant principal, Narissa Lee, was killed. Cook County authorities have yet to identify the 2 others killed, including the shooter who took his own life. Now, none of those killed are students at Lincoln Middle School, which was closed Wednesday. Investigators are calling this a domestic-related incident. An officer-involved shooting in the Austin neighborhood, a suspect wielding a knife around 11 last night near Madison and Lockwood, prompted a call to police. Officers first used tasers, which didn't work. That's when they fired a shot hitting the man. That suspect in serious but stable condition. A third case of the measles reported in Chicago. Cook County health officials say the most recent case involving a 4-year-old child and may be linked to international travel. The Department of Public Health working toward notifying people who may have been exposed. Terminal 5 at O'Hare, a point of public exposure last Thursday. Measles is contagious. Chicago Mayor Johnson making recommendations designed to address the city's more than $1 billion budget gap. A report created by the Chicago Financial Future Task Force. Now, some ideas include raising taxes on bottled water, liquor, plastic bags, and restoring a $4 a month employee head tax. Some cost-cutting options include flexible furlough days, raising the employee health care contribution, and getting rid of the Chicago Police Department's 25 horse-mounted unit. The Blackhawks opening training camp Wednesday, the team also conducting physicals, and today will hold its first on-ice session. The preseason opener next Tuesday against the Red Wings in Detroit. The season opener will also be against Detroit on September 30th at the United Center. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you can save 90% off on average to get your smile back. Check if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. We're checking roads in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Larry Elder thinks the media is being ridiculous.
There was a hashtag called Trump is Dead, and it was trending. The same people who covered up for Biden for years are concerned that the president, who held 3 consecutive press conferences recently in one day, takes a little bit of time off, and he's not being transparent about his health.
The Larry Elder Show. Weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owe the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louie found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louie has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation. Take it from Louie.
If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call. They can help you.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
We all know the importance of good daily habits, whether it's getting your steps in, stretching those limbs, or eating right. Doing it on the regular is key. That's why if you're dealing with everyday aches and pain, it's time to bring Relief Factor into your routine. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor uses a special formula of 4 natural ingredients. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. So call 1-800-4-RELIEF and try their 3-week quick start for only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Simply call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Wherever you're having pain, don't let it keep you from living the life you want. Make Relief Factor part of your daily routine. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, traffic coming alive this morning. No major incidents. We are tracking some slow traffic building on the Tri-State Tollway, northbound off-ramp to the westbound Eisenhower Expressway. The Eden's looking good this morning. Kennedy outbound between Canfield and I-90, traffic building there. Slow traffic, about a 5-minute delay if you're inbound Kennedy between Montrose and Belmont Avenue. If you're cruising in on the Stevenson inbound between Harlem and Kedzie, about a 3-minute backup. Also slow traffic Stevenson inbound between Ashland and Dan Ryan. Now speaking of the Dan Ryan Express lanes inbound, there's about a 2-minute delay there between Pershing and Stevenson. Tapping the brakes if you're Bishop Ford inbound between Stony Island Feeder and the Dan Ryan Expressway. And some activity on the Metro lines. The trains are not running due to police activity. That's the Metro Union Pacific North line, both north and southbound between Kenosha and Waukegan. Other trains are stepping up to accommodate passengers there. Traffic, a service of Salem Surround, a local digital marketing agency providing high-performing digital solutions to surround your target audience. Go to surroundchicago.com today. I'm John Cruz. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 86. Tonight, skies will be clear with the low of 64. Tomorrow, expect similar conditions with a high of 84, a mix of clouds and sun and continued warmth. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. We'll continue this conversation we've been having about Jimmy Kimmel being sidelined for now and fold in some local examples of repercussions, or perhaps repercussions that should be visited upon people saying outlandish, repulsive things about Charlie Kirk and his assassination. A couple of texts, just kick it off there. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line and text line. From our friend Steve on 88. So if I write a letter to Planned Parenthood telling them they're wrong or I disagree with them, and I tell them I'm going to rally my church and other people in my community who agree with me against Planned Parenthood, I'll probably get RICO'd. How's that fair? So I don't really understand the point, in the sense that because the left would use the state illegitimately to prosecute people for their political or religious beliefs, then when the right has power, we should silence dissent or disinformation. I mean, and you know, though pro-life groups have been targeted by the IRS, by various state and federal statutes, many of which have been deemed unconstitutional because the left is illiberal. Despite that fact, I mean, there's still pro-life groups that do exactly that, take private action to persuade people, women in particular, to choose adoption or childbearing, pregnancy support groups that do this. So there's all this private action in furtherance, just to carry on this example, in response to Planned Parenthood. And to the extent that government gets involved to try and put its finger on the scale for Planned Parenthood, it's doing so illegitimately. So because we recognize something they did as illegitimate, it somehow sanctions us to do something illegitimate when we have the reins of power. How does that make sense? That's how you want this to go? Tit for tat in terms of government overreach? Where does that end? A happy place? A couple other texts here. What Kimmel said was not a late night joke. I know, but Kimmel is a late night joke. And people take him seriously even when he is being serious at their own peril, right? Again, Western civilization, American culture rises or falls on Jimmy Kimmel and his ilk. Gosh, I hope not. And actually, I don't think so. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. I mean, do you want to be the negative composite of this guy? Jimmy Kimmel, when Tucker Carlson was fired by Fox News?
Fox News has severed bow ties with Tucker Carlson. After all these years, they are parting ways, which means he was fired. I mean, that's really what parting ways means. Tucker couldn't be reached for comment. He's already on a plane to Moscow to meet with his manager. But what a shock. I mean, what an absolutely delightful shock this is. Now Tucker can spend more time at home tanning his testicles and touching himself to that sexy green M&M. Sadly, he's probably not done poisoning old people's brains. The question now is, where will he do it next? Will he go to OAN? Will he go to Newsmax? Will he crawl back up Satan's fiery beehole from whence he came? We don't know. One of the most despicable mother Tuckers ever to appear on American television.
So, I mean, it's fine. You want to celebrate Jimmy Kimmel being sidelined. You're well within your rights to do that. But you want to use state power here? AOC, under the previous regime, when she and they were ascendant.
You know, I do think that several members of Congress in some of my discussions have brought up media literacy, because that is a part of what happened here. And we're going to have to figure out how we rein in our media environment so that you can't just spew disinformation and misinformation. It's one thing to have differing opinions, but it's another thing entirely to just say things that are false. And so that's something that we're looking into.
You stand with AOC? She represent your view on this?
Federal regulation in terms of what's allowed on air and what isn't. And when you look at what Tucker Carlson and some of these other folks on Fox do, it is very, very clearly incitement of violence. Very clearly incitement of violence. And that is the line that I think we have to be willing to contend with.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. We can prevent political violence, another political assassination of a conservative, through enforced silence. Is that what you think? Chris in Lake County, on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, Dan, I agree. I think that, I don't know if Brandon Carr was going to do anything more than just send a strongly worded letter, but I think with that threat, those states decided to pull Kimmel because ratings were down, et cetera. So I agree. I think it's complicated, and I don't want the government to have that kind of authority. But I also find it interesting, however many callers are completely, he doesn't like you, he disagrees with your show completely, yet he agreed with everything you said, and still there's no common ground. It's amazing to me. Maybe that's why we just can't seem to get along.
Thanks for the call, Chris. Well, and then the argument, like from 630, what about the truth? The problem is a complete lack of it. It's a problem with MSM, mainstream media. Right, I know, but the mainstream media is shrinking, particularly in the digital age, isn't it? Where you have podcasters that have bigger audiences than network cable news shows, than daily newspapers. So as much of as much leftist propaganda as is out there, there's also a lot of countervailing opinion, isn't there? And, every time you turn around, there's a new outlet, and the better ones pop, and they're advancing the principles of Western civilization. I look at the free press as an example. Barry Weiss, the outlet that Barry Weiss started, that Paramount's going to pay $200 million for, and she's going to have some sort of role at CBS News. No, I mean, I'm not an acolyte of Barry Weiss. I think the free press is a pretty good outlet. Got a lot of interesting commentary and a lot of good thinkers there that are contributors. And who knows how it works out at CBS News, but for her and what kind of impact she has. But I mean, the idea that sort of it's stasis and we've just got these few outlets and they're dominant and nobody can break through and they have entranced the great majority of the American public. That's not true. Have you seen who's in the White House lately? It's not true. So I think we want to go in the direction where we let 1,000 flowers bloom in terms of ideas and views, as opposed to worrying about the more odious and obnoxious and ill-informed views. If you believe in free minds and particularly free markets and the free market of information and knowledge and wisdom, then you would necessarily conclude that more often than not, the better reasoned, the more compelling arguments will win the day. Not always. There are fits of temporary societal insanity. I'm well aware. I've lived through many of them, as you all have. And it varies from locale to locale and state to state, widely. But I mean, just going down this path, we don't want to be AOC. We don't want to be Jimmy Kimmel. Jose Midway.
Hi, Dan. Dan, I voted for Trump. Feel bad for Charlie Kirk. Absolutely. That was horrific. But what's going on is the same thing the Democrats were doing. They're trying to silence you. I mean, when does it end with this hate speech? They're trying to get rid of the First Amendment. I mean, I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks for the call. Well, no, of course the left is. I mean, the left is trying to get rid of the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, anything found in the Constitution that impedes their pursuit of power. Of course they want to get rid of. Well, this is the point. This is why this is the time where conservatives have to speak up and defend the foundational principles of this country and free societies in general. I mean, you want to go down the path, the UK, and by the way, that's the path you go down as soon as you start saying you can't say ignorant, vile things about other people. It's not that I'm encouraging people to be ignorant or vile, but it is attendant to the dynamic. Mark, Oaklawn.
Hey, Dan, I appreciate that vile and ignorant comment. I resemble that remark, and but thank you for letting me speak my mind a little bit. I heard Obama talking the other day about Trump's dividing the country and blah, blah, blah. And ALC makes all the comments about Tucker Carlson. And it's just we have to put up with it, and free speech is something that is sacred and we have to put up with it. And thank God we got people like Tucker Carlson and not John Hendrickson and Maurice Dubois.
Thanks for the call, Mark. Well, here's the other thing. It's such an opportunity. I mean, I think the ad campaigns, for candidates for office over the next year and a half should be completely about this issue. Who the left told you they were and what they have exposed themselves to be. I know people say, well, that didn't work with COVID. This is a different thing. Majority of people are not on board for political violence as the means, or violence as the means to political ends. They're not. They're not on board for these the sort of grotesque conduct you see, people kicking over memorials to Charlie Kirk, the hateful things that are being said, the unbelievably hateful things, including by button down professional people. I mean, I hate to bring this up because I don't know the Napletons, the Napleton dealerships here in Chicagoland and elsewhere. They're in many states, very successful. But I hear nice things about them, at least from my golfing buddies that know some of the Napletons. Maureen Napleton, though, she is legal counsel at the Napleton Auto Group in Hinsdale. She posted this. I would be so happy to dance on this MFer's grave. She's talking about Charlie Kirk. If you don't like my opinion, that's your problem, because I do not give a single unfollow, unfriend, be gone. The man was a monster, and I only hope Trump is next. If these ass blank want to live by the sword, they have to die by the sword. And if you don't get that reference, you are too uneducated to comment. He can burn in the deepest depths, the deepest depths of hell. If you give a blank about guns and poor Charlie being murdered by guns, pay more attention to children being gunned down on a regular basis. This is a legal counsel at the Napleton Auto Group has got to be, if it's not $1 billion business, it's got to be close. Maureen Napleton. So my point of bringing that example in is to say, what an opportunity it is to compare and contrast, as we've talked about, comparing and contrasting the college kids who held vigils on campus while their colleagues on the left were engaged in destructive, distasteful behavior, either mocking Charlie Kirk for being assassinated, kicking over vigils, makeshift memorials, like I just mentioned. We've seen several examples of that. Sarah Huckabee Sanders commented on one that happened at, I think, the University of Arkansas, or somewhere in Bentonville, Arkansas. Anyway, the comparison contrast. This is who they said they are, the great saviors of democracy, and this is who they actually are. Make your choice. This is who they said we are, and this is who we actually are. Make your choice. In stark terms, repeat the choice over and over and over again. A majority of people in this country want to live in peace with their neighbor, believe their neighbor can disagree with them without being subjected to violence, or should not be subjected to violence for sure, or even bad things happening. I just fundamentally disagree. I mean, yeah, sometimes the temperature gets raised, but that's sort of the resting position of a majority of people in this country who are otherwise sensible. So let's take advantage of that by presenting these contrasts relentlessly between now and 2026 and 2028. And as long as we have to, in order to marginalize this anti-American element that believes that violence is the legitimate means to political ends, that is attempting to achieve compulsory unification of opinion. Chris and Carrie.
I'd rather have Kimmel on the air. If we're a capitalistic society, free speech, free markets, let the dollars speak for themselves. Just don't watch. Let ABC wallow, NBC wallow in their own demise. I mean, the same respect, I almost want Mondani to win in New York. Let them make the bed and sleep in it, because it's going to go sideways, and when it does, who are they going to blame? So let that be a tiny experiment for the rest of the country. and then let's see what happens. We're already seeing it here in Chicago. Let New York experience it.
Thanks, Chris. Steve in South Loop.
Hey, Dan, how you doing?
Good.
I just wanted to make a comment about the Jimmy Kimmel thing. I really don't think it's unprecedented at all, what the FCC did. I thought it was completely appropriate. The second point I'll make is Jimmy Kimmel sucks. He shouldn't even be on the air.
Okay.
But back to the first point, I think FCC was doing their job. This is not unprecedented. It's happened before. It probably happened without us knowing it. It just so happens that Jimmy Kimmel has a big audience, and they wanted to do a preemptive strike to make sure that the local affiliates weren't liable for getting sued by people. I don't know how you feel about that point.
Well, thanks for the call, Steve. I guess my question is, would Sinclair and Nexstar and certainly Disney, would they have acted if Brenton Carr, the FCC chairman, didn't suggest that there are regulatory things the FCC can do and maybe should take up with respect to ABC after Jimmy Kimmel's comments? Would they have done what they did to Kimmel's show without that signaling from Brendan Carr? And I'm a fan of Brendan Carr. We've had him on the show as well, talking about some of these very issues. And what I'm saying is, it's whether that is unprecedented or not. I mean, I don't really think that's unprecedented. That's sort of signaling. That's certainly, generally speaking, that's sort of signaling that government has some regulatory power here. Sort of, maybe this is an area it should be used, maybe it isn't. We'll see, and that generates a response from the potential target. That's not unprecedented, but it's still chilling. It's still a step that should not be taken lightly, because it's a step down a very dangerous path. That's what I'm saying. Troy in St. John, Indiana.
Hey, good morning, Dan. I got a real simple question for you, but let me frame it first. Given that Obama opened the door to propaganda being turned inwardly with the Smith Modernization Act, and next two articles I read, one is these networks are staffed 97% by leftist sympathizers and donors. And then finally, a recent article where it said 75% of America is so damn intellectually lazy that they read a headline and they run with it. So the question is real simple. I'm with you. I do not want my government saying what can be said and what cannot be said. But isn't there a distinction between the government controlling speech and an employer saying, we don't want you representing us saying these things?
Oh, there's clearly a distinction. Absolutely, there's a distinction. But in this case, the government didn't take any action, but it signaled that action was something it was contemplating, and that drew a response. And that is not, it may be passive aggressive, but it's still government action. And what I'm saying is this is a treacherous road to travel. Even just the hinting at what you might do, it's right. I didn't put my finger on the scale, but it's hanging over the scale like a sword of Damocles. I mean,
I agree with you there.
Yeah.
And if you'll let me leave you with one thing, I was overjoyed to see that the current presidential administration is now looking at the Smith Modernization Act.
Thanks for the call, Troy. Coming up at 6:36. We'll turn our attention to matters of border security and immigration policy. Tony Prewinkle has weighed in on Operation Midway Blitz. Ronald Vitiello, senior advisor for DHS and former chief of U.S. Border Patrol, joins us at 6:36 to discuss. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning, 58 degrees in Chicago and AM 560 The Answer. I'm John Cruz in the AlmostFreeTeat.com newsroom. Plenty of sun, highs in the 80s today. Students are headed back to Lincoln Middle School this morning, 2 days after a shooting outside the school left the assistant principal dead, 2 others as well, including the suspect. This was in Berwyn. Cook County authorities have yet to identify the 2 others killed. School was closed Wednesday. Investigators are calling this a domestic-related incident. 3 law enforcement officers have died after 5 were shot in York County, Pennsylvania. Officials say the officers were shot following up on a domestic-related incident. That shooter killed by police. The 2 surviving officers being treated at a hospital. They're in critical but stable condition. A Chicago-based network expanding their operations to protect the Jewish community. Secure Community Network expanding its real-time threat management data, which monitors thousands of online sites and distributes that information to Jewish centers across North America. The operation says it's managing the highest threat environment against the Jewish community it's seen in decades. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you can save 90% off on average to get your smile back. Check if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the traffic coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Your home is a valuable asset, and you want to take care of your home. From roofs, siding, windows, and doors to furnaces, flooring, landscaping, and much more. Listen to your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio every Sunday morning at 9. Presented by Lang Home Medical Equipment, Valdecast Windows and Doors, and by JeffBuysYourHouse.com. Get answers from industry experts so you can make informed decisions about your home improvement. Right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Does your garage floor look lousy with stained or cracked concrete, or even worse, bad epoxy or paint? Call Comer and Cross Concrete Floors now. During their end-of-the-year sale at 1-800-NEW-FLOOR right now, you'll get the best price of the year guaranteed, starting with $750 off. At Comer and Cross Garage Floor, they are the gold standard, guaranteed to never chip, crack, or show tire lift like epoxy or bad paint. And they'll make it so easy, they're in and out in one day. They'll fix your cracks, the pits, and they fix them perfectly the first time. They're certified, they're uniformed, they're employees. They'll even take the stuff out of your garage for you. Whether you're in Chicago, Milwaukee, or Indiana, now is the time to call them for the best price of the year, guaranteed, starting with $750 off right now during their end-of-the-year garage sale. Here's the number. It's easy. 1-800-NEW-FLOOR. That's 1-800-NEW-FLOOR, or go to COMERCross.com.
Attention investors with a 401k, IRA, or retirement account. The dollar has lost over 25% of its value in the past 5 years, and it's only going to get worse. Are you prepared for what's about to happen next? We are Advantage Gold, the #1 customer-rated gold IRA company in America, and we are helping Americans prepare for the great de-dollarization by diversifying their portfolios with physical precious metals. We've partnered with former chief economist of the IMF, Kenneth Rogoff, to give away his latest book called Our Dollar, Your Problem, a must-read for investors. Call 800-741-GOLD, and we'll rush a free copy of Our Dollar, Your Problem to your doorstep, and include our special gold IRA investing kit, valued at $49. The dollar is losing value fast. Call 800-741-GOLD now to get your free copy of Our Dollar, Your Problem, and our free gold IRA investing kit. Supplies are limited. Consult your tax and financial professional before investing. Call 800-741-4653. That's 800-741-GOLD.
Want to see if you could pay less in taxes? Try the quick and easy tax calculator at willsave.com. Yes, a free tax calculator. That's WILSAVE.com. Calculate how you could keep more of your hard-earned money and give less to Uncle Sam, especially in retirement. Get your free tax analysis today at willsave.com. And don't forget to tune in to Protecting Your Assets with Steve Shyman every Saturday morning at 8, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Okay, this basement is unreal. You've got a bar, theater seats. What is this place?
This is my escape. Forever Remodeling custom designed the whole thing. Not 1 square foot is wasted.
Man, mine still has a treadmill and a folding table.
Their designers asked a ton of questions. I wanted the ultimate game day setup. They delivered. Bar, big screen, sound that shakes the walls.
Visit Forever Remodeling today at foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com. And tell them AM 560 sent you.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Taking a peek of the roads on the Team Hawkbird Traffic Center. Still no major incidents tracking this morning. It is stacking up, though, if you're on the Bishop Ford inbound between Stony Island Feeder and Dan Ryan. About a 31-minute trip if you're on the inbound Eden this morning. Traffic is stacking up on the Kennedy inbound between Foster and Montrose, about a 5-minute gap. Stop and go right now on the Kennedy inbound between Montrose and Damon Avenue. Traffic creeping up on the Eisenhower inbound between Mannheim and Harlem, about a 4-minute backup, and a 5-minute delay Eisenhower outbound between Austin Boulevard and First Avenue. We're watching the Dan Ryans. Traffic starting to build up of your local lanes inbound between 43rd and 18th. And still monitoring police activity on the Metro Union Pacific North line. That's Metro both north and southbound between Kenosha and Waukegan. Trains are stepping up to help accommodate passengers there. This report sponsored by Aleve. Life doesn't wait, neither should you. Aleve can help you deal with pain less throughout your day with just one pill. Aleve lasts up to 12 hours. Don't let those aches and pains hold you back from doing what's important to you. Use as directed. Chicago's Morning Answer is next. Now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 86. Tonight will be clear with a low of 64. Tomorrow will also be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Tony Prewinkle, the president of the Cook County Board. She's got a primary challenge, Brendan Riley, next year. I mean, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Sanctuary City versus Sanctuary County versus Sanctuary State. That's all part of the same groupthink. Prewinkle got together some Cook County commissioners to decry Operation Midway Blitz. Of course she did. Just like BLM Brandon, just like Jelly Belly Pritzker, they all have to sing from the same hymnal. Otherwise, how would they defend the catastrophes, the deaths that have resulted from their policies? I mean, Operation Midway Blitz is named in honor of Katie Abraham, who was killed in Urbana, along with a friend of hers, by a man in this country illegally, as we've talked about quite a bit, including talking to her father, Joe. So they have to get out there and say things like this.
These practices create fear in our neighborhoods and erode trust in law enforcement. Plainclothes agents, unmarked cars, and the refusal to provide identification are not hallmarks of transparency or accountability. Instead, they raise the risk of abuse, intimidation, and impersonation. This is unacceptable.
For reaction to what Tony Prewinkle had to say and what politicians in Chicago and Illinois have been saying since we decided to enforce the border and immigration law under this president, please be joined by Ron Vitiello, Senior Advisor for DHS and CBP, Office of the Commissioner, former Chief of U.S. Border Patrol and Deputy Commissioner and retired Acting Director at ICE. Ron Vitiello, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan, I'm delighted to be out with you.
So, it's that you've been this demonization. That's a room temperature version of it, but it's the same old talking point. It's unmarked cars, plainclothes officers, wearing masks, intimidating people, as our governor has said here in Illinois. Their interest is cruelty and terror. And that's basically what you're getting from Tony Prewinkle and a bunch of Cook County politicians yesterday.
Yeah, I would categorize that as propaganda. And if the leadership of Illinois, Cook County, the city itself, if they wanted to change conditions as it relates to Operation Midway Blitz or, improve the quality of life of the people in Chicagoland, they would just merely work with ICE and work with the federal government to allow ICE officers and immigration officers to arrest people who are in the country illegally, who have been arrested by local jurisdictions, and take those people into custody. Once their cases in the local courts are adjudicated, they can be put on a path for removal. They can be turned over inside of the lobby of a jail. That is the safest way to take criminal aliens into custody and improve the quality of life of the people of Chicagoland. But the leadership in Illinois can't see themselves to do that. And so they engage in a destructive policy that allows people who are in the country illegally to do all sorts of terrible things, in which they will be arrested by local jurisdictions and then be let back out on the street to reoffend, to re-victimize, and to engage in recidivism for criminal acts across the area. And so, they can complain all they want. The law is the way it is, and it has been for many years. And so people who are in the country illegally don't deserve to be here. We didn't invite them here. They weren't inspected and vetted by immigration officers to be allowed to stay and visit. And so what we're seeing in Midway Blitz is a commitment by the president, leadership by Secretary Nome, to say, hey, there's a lot of criminals in jurisdictions like this, and we're going to go find them, and we're going to put them on a path for removal.
Now, to be fair here, there was an operation in suburban Elgin, apparently, and 5 people were taken into custody. 2 of them turned out to be U.S. citizens, and they were subsequently released. So nobody's being disappeared, and nobody's being denied their due process, and so on and so forth. And ICE officers, are going to make mistakes. You just hope that they're not serious mistakes and they can be corrected. Seems like that the mistake they made with those 2 U.S. citizens was. But you described, why this is more complicated than it needs to be, because we can't handle these things with federal and state and local working together. That's an important point. But how does ICE make a mistake like that, where, because just for people's understanding, where they bring in 2 individuals they apparently thought were here illegally that turned out to be U.S. citizens? How can those sorts of mistakes be avoided?
Well, as I understand it, that was a criminal warrant service, and it is very common in law enforcement when officers serve a warrant and they make dynamic entry, right? And when they break down the door to serve that warrant and arrest the individual targets that are inside, each of the people that are in that residence are ordered and asked and secured by the police until the target is found and extracted or taken into custody. And those 2 people of the 5, which presumably means that 3 of the people that were there were in the country illegally or were named on those arrest warrants. And so when someone is briefly taken into custody to verify their identity, to make sure that they're not the person on the warrant, police will normally take that person into custody, sometimes put them and detain them into handcuffs or in the back of a patrol car until the investigation is complete. I think that's what happened here, and people want to make more of it. But the criminal targets inside that home in Elgin could have been turned over by the Cook County Sheriff's Office in the lobby in a secure area of a jail in which everybody is identified, and there is a law enforcement relationship that exists, and everybody verifies who everybody else is, and those people are taken into custody without incident. And that happens in many jurisdictions across the country every single day in the quest to protect Americans and improve their quality of life by removing criminals who do not have status in the U.S.
Yeah, or Kane County, some suburban collar counties, but it's the same thing because, of course, Illinois is a sanctuary state. And I wanted to get your reaction to something. So the city of Wheaton, Illinois, which is the county seat of DuPage County, the 2nd most populous county in Illinois, and where I'm from, by the way. Wheaton College, I'm sure you're familiar with, Billy Graham and all that. Used to be a conservative area. We used to be able to say that about a lot of places in Illinois. But this is the missive from Wheaton. It's a 45,000 person suburban community. Yeah, pretty safe and all that. And I just want to get your reaction, like in terms of the advice and counsel you would provide to local officials and police having to operate in a state like Illinois. They posted, we understand that federal inactivity we have received numerous inquiries about federal immigration operations within the city and the level of communication and cooperation between federal and local authorities. We understand that federal activity in our area can cause uncertainty and raise concerns in our community, and we want the Wheaton community to understand the state laws. The Wheaton Police Department adheres to all Illinois laws put in place by the Trust Act, which prohibits our police officers from participating, supporting, or assisting in any capacity in federal immigration operations. For more information, there's a link. The whole sort of tone of this I found disquieting. I mean, the whole federal activity in our area could cause uncertainty. I mean, would it be nice for you guys, for ICE, if you had local officials in a place like Wheaton say, so here's the deal. We've got the Trust Act, which is, oxymoronic with an emphasis on moronic, and it prohibits our local police from helping federal law enforcement. So federal law enforcement is here to enforce federal laws and to make our communities safer and to remove people that shouldn't be here. And but unfortunately, our hands are tied, and we'll do everything that we can under Illinois law to support federal law enforcement. But just understand that the choices that we've made in terms of the leadership of this state have put us in this place. Yeah, something like that. That's a little bit more strip the veneer away and tell people what time it really is.
Yeah, the euphemism like the Trust Act, right? This is a destructive policy. You wouldn't say the same thing about people who are wanted in the community for kidnapping children or being pedophiles or robbing banks or whatever. You name the federal crime that is enforced all over the country, including in Illinois and in Wheaton, where I have family that I care deeply about.
Oh.
This is a euphemism for them not wanting to comply with federal law. And again, they wouldn't do it for other offenses under the federal code. The left and the propagandists on the left and this weak, feckless leadership has tried to convince Americans and people that live in Chicagoland that being in the country illegally is not a crime. Well, guess what? It is a federal crime to cross the border illegally and come into the country uninvited. It is also very destructive, like we saw in the last 4 years under the Biden administration, where upwards of 12 million people on the government rolls came into the country illegally. The Secretary Mayorkas himself said that 85% of those people were released into our communities, degrading borders, degrading the sovereignty of the United States, and impinging on the lives and livelihood and the quality of life in places like Chicagoland. So this leadership chooses to choose the people that are not from here and embolden them and act like the law doesn't apply federally in Wheaton, but it sure does.
Well, right. I mean, it's this idea we sort of fall into this trap of passively aggressively participating in the demonization of ICE. Like ICE is the problem. We can't do anything about this federal law enforcement that's in town enforcing the law as like, it's a bad thing. We understand it raises concern and uncertainty. You know what raises concern and uncertainty is, 80,000 unaccompanied minors that disappeared into this country under the Biden administration, almost 23,000 that have been located by the Trump administration, and 400 people have been arrested. 27 of the minors were found dead, either by murder, suicide, or drug overdose, according to HHS. I mean, the impacts of the policies that are championed in places like Illinois, I mean, that seems to me like where we should be driving the conversation relentlessly.
That's absolutely right. The crimes that are committed by people who are in the country illegally are completely preventable. We will all be safer. Quality of life will go up. Children won't be exploited. People in the labor context won't be exploited for their hard work. If you control the border and you have an immigration system that has integrity, many of your listeners, many of my family, yours maybe as well, have an immigration story in our background. Our grandparents and their parents came from other places around the world to come to this country. If we give up our sovereignty to people, anybody that has enough energy to walk across the southwest border or fly into the country and overstay their visa, if we give that up across the board, then we're not going to have the country that we want to live in. We're not going to have conditions and quality of life that our kids and our grandkids deserve.
And by the way, I mean, again, these cases are being adjudicated. A high-profile one, there's been a development there. An immigration judge in Louisiana has issued an order that a former Columbia University student, Mahmoud Khalil, be deported to Algeria or Syria. So he's been winding his way through the courts. He has 30 days to appeal that decision to the Board of Immigration Appeals. So he is so the other thing that's happening, ICE isn't some Pinochet death squad where it's pulling people off the street even if they have a detainer and then just, they're just gone and nobody ever hears from them again, and then they're not funneled into a court system where they get due process rights. All of this is being done under the color of law, and all of these ghost stories are just that.
No, that's absolutely right. And these irresponsible politicians that call federal law enforcement doing their jobs, when they call that disappearing or kidnapping, it's the height of irresponsibility and hypocrisy. They claim that they want people to they want agents to take their masks off, but they don't try to pass laws to keep agents and their families from being doxxed online and being harassed online when the people out there put their names and their identities and their addresses online. And Khalil, seems to favor, the policies of Hamas. And so, I'm sure he'll be welcomed back to the Middle East where he can advocate for terrorist organizations around the globe. He does not have to do that here. He has no privilege to stay in the United States under those conditions. He could have been here. He could have been a productive scholar or professor in the Ivy League or wherever he was. But if he wants to espouse, the goodness of Hamas around the world, he can certainly do it from overseas.
I wanted to play something else Marco Rubio said this week about visa revocations, sort of along the lines of those advocating for terrorist organizations, those cheerleading the political assassinations.
We are not in the business of inviting people to visit our country who are going to be involved in negative and destructive behavior. Okay, so why should, if we invite someone to visit the United States of America as a student, as a tourist, as whatever, then they have the standard they should be held to is very high. We shouldn't be bringing people into this country. We should not be giving visas to people who are going to come to the United States and do things like celebrate the murder, the execution, the assassination of a political figure. We should not. And if they're already here, we should be revoking their visa.
What do you think about that? I mean, I don't know how much engagement, say, ICE has or CBP has from a policymaking perspective with the Secretary of State or Homeland Security, but your reaction, either sort of professionally or just as an American.
Well, I think he's absolutely right, and I can tell you that the interagency cooperation between ICE and CBP and the State Department, Department of Defense, and Justice is better than I've ever seen it. I've got 40 years of experience in and around these issues, and it is wonderful. And to hear the Secretary of State say, look, immigration, whether it's a visa, whether it's someone who's coming to immigrate legally to the United States, when somebody's going to matriculate to become a United States citizen through the process, those laws are on the books to preserve the American way of life and to improve the American experience. It is not supposed to be for people who want to come and tear down the country, who want to tear down other individuals. This political assassination hasn't happened for decades in America, and that's bad enough. But now we're seeing online these people who are going joyfully out there and saying that they're glad to see what had happened. Somebody who was killed for their beliefs and their verbalization of the American way of life. It's terrible to see. And when we're inviting people to the United States on a visa or to come to immigrate, that's supposed to be for the benefit of America, not for that individual, not from the country that they come from, but for us as citizens that live here.
Ron Vitiello, Senior Advisor for THS and CBP Office of the Commissioner, former Chief of U.S. Border Patrol and Deputy Commissioner and retired Acting Director at ICE as well. Ron Vitiello, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
And Ron joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Terracon Consultants Incorporated seeks senior staff engineer in Lombard, Illinois to analyze data and perform engineering calculations and analysis. $102,669 to $127,700 per year. Standard benefits. Apply at jobpostingtoday.com, reference number 93009. Again, Terracon Consultants Incorporated seeks senior staff engineer in Lombard, Illinois to analyze data and perform engineering calculations and analysis. Apply at jobpostingtoday.com, reference number 93009.
Perhaps you're a collector, or perhaps all of a sudden you have a collection. Maybe it's an inheritance. How do you know what it's worth? This is Sean Thompson for Donley Auction. The market for antiques and collectibles is changing all the time. What is your collection worth right now? Well, I've got an easy way to find out. It's simple. You contact Donley Auctions with their worldwide audience of live and in-person auctions. They have a good idea of how to tell you exactly what it's worth at exactly right now. They're ready to put top dollar in your pocket. The bigger the collection, the better. Go to DonleyAuctions.com and get the info on all things that they buy and sell to have an idea of exactly what Donley does and how much they need your collection. They have so many buyers, it's a great time to sell. Just simply make a phone call. Donley has traveled all over the country to pick up collections. Just call and talk to the people at Donley Auctions at 815-923-7000. Donley Auctions is your trusted partner in turning your collections into cash. DonleyAuctions.com.
The Dinesh D'Souza Podcast.
This is an important thing to recognize about Trump is he's a very transactional guy. Trump will impose a penalty, and if you come to him and say, well, let's make a deal. This is the actual opposite of socialism. This is called cutting a deal to make something work. And I think that's all that goes through Trump's mind.
Subscribe to the Dinesh D'Souza Podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Virago is fending off viruses and making America healthy again.
Hi, my name is Dr. Michael Huber. I'm one of the co-founders of Virago, the immune enhancement cocktail. Here are what some Virago users have to say.
I started using Virago a little more than a year ago. I have 3 school-age kids, and they are constantly bringing home whatever bug is going around school, whether it's a cold, a sore throat, whatever it is. Everyone in the house was getting sick. I started taking Virago to help boost my immune system, and it worked. I haven't been sick since starting Virago. I use just a half a dose daily unless I feel like I'm getting something. Then I'll take a full dose for a day or 2, and I'm fine. I also feel great and more on top of my game, like my memory is sharper. I'm not forgetting things. I absolutely recommend Virago.
Boost your immune system with Virago. Order your bottle today. Visit myvirago.com. That's myvirago.com.
And use promo code IMMUNE to get 30% off.
That's myvirago.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. Virago and Maha, making America healthy again.
Take the journey of living a happy, successful, and meaningful life through God. Listen to It's Time with Dan Lights, Sunday mornings at 9 on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life. AM 560, The Answer.
It's Trump's Fed now, opines the Wall Street Journal after the Fed announced a 25 basis point rate cut yesterday. We'll see if Scott the Cowguy Shelley agrees. Scott the Cowguy joins us to talk about all things, there it is, dollars and cents, at 7:07. It is now 7 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Still no comment from Jimmy Kimmel. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The Morning After show did not air. ABC suspended it indefinitely over things Kimmel said the past few days about the Charlie Kirk assassination, suggesting the suspected gunman was right-wing MAGA, though evidence shows the opposite and that he hated Kirk.
Kimmel continued again on Tuesday, stating, quote, many in MAGA land are working very hard to capitalize on the murder of Charlie Kirk.
Fox's Todd Pyro.
Before ABC's announcement, the president of one of the country's largest TV stations said it would stop airing Kimmel's show, calling the host's comments offensive and insensitive, and that they don't represent the values of the communities in which we are located. SAG-AFTRA, though, responding to the suspension, stating that the decision is the type of suppression and retaliation that endangers everyone's freedoms.
President Trump reacted while in Britain. More on his trip in a moment. Posting on Truth Social a congratulations to ABC for having the courage to take Kimmel off the air. Now more on the suspected Kirk assassin. Fox's Garrett Tenney reports from Utah.
The Washington County Sheriff says last Thursday, the 22-year-old suspect was driving out to a remote area of southern Utah to take his own life until his parents convinced him not to and said they would help him surrender peacefully. The alleged assassin had some conditions for doing that, though.
He was fearful of a SWAT team hit on his house, or he was fearful of being shot by law enforcement.
Sheriff Nate Brooksby also says that Tyler Robinson's parents and the roommate he allegedly confessed to are now staying far away after getting threats. 2 police officers critical but stable the morning after a shooting in York County, Pennsylvania that left 3 other officers dead, attacked as they served a warrant. The gunman was killed when they shot back. Back to President Trump. He's meeting now with Britain's Prime Minister discussing trade and other issues after the president at a lavish state dinner at Windsor Castle with King Charles last night said the U.S.-UK bond is
priceless and eternal. It's irreplaceable and unbreakable.
America's listen.
Good morning, 57 degrees in Chicago and AM 560 The Answer. I'm John Cruz in the Fox Valley Coins newsroom. Great day to be outside. Sunshine, a high around 84. 2 officer-related shootings in Chicago overnight. The first in the Austin neighborhood. A man walking around Madison and Lockwood carrying a large knife around 11 o'clock last night. That prompted a call to 911. Officers deployed tasers, which didn't work. That's when they fired a shot hitting the man. He is in serious but stable condition. A second shooting on the south side around 9 p.m. along Langley Avenue. An off-duty officer was approached by a man, again with a knife. That's when the officer fired his gun, hitting the suspect in the legs. He is in stable condition. CPD continues investigating. The assistant principal of Lincoln Middle School, one of 3 killed in a shooting Tuesday in Berwyn right outside the school. That assistant principal, Narissa Lee, was killed. Cook County authorities have not identified the 2 others killed, including the shooter who took his own life. Now, students are heading back to class at Lincoln Middle School this morning. Across the state, a St. Joseph Middle School teacher under investigation after being accused of showing an image containing a sexual act to students. The Champaign County Sheriff's Office says the teacher was showing images from his phone last week from a personal trip related to current events. Well, that's when a photo showing the teacher engaged in a sexual act was accidentally shown. Investigators don't believe the image was shown on purpose. The Illinois men's basketball team remains a hot ticket. University of Illinois student tickets sold out in record time. All 3,000 tickets for home games were bought by students in just 18 minutes. Well, that broke last year's record of 26 minutes. It also marks the 5th year in a row that Orange Crush student season tickets have sold out. And Chicago Mayor Johnson has some ideas for addressing the city's more than $1 billion budget gap. Some of those ideas include raising taxes on bottled water, liquor, plastic bags, and restoring a $4 a month employee head tax. Some other cost-cutting measures include flexible furlough days and getting rid of the Chicago Police Department's 25 horse-mounted unit. News is a service of Fox Valley Coins. No waiting, no problems, no charge for in-store verbal appraisals. Bring your gold or silver in today. FoxValleyCoins.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
If you listen to the mainstream media and the Democrats, you'd think it was a sin to be black and conservative. Well, John Anthony blows up that perception every week on Black and Right. Join John this Saturday afternoon at 4 when he pushes back against the left and its regressive, progressive agenda that tries to dictate how people should think or feel about politics. Listen to Black and Right this Saturday afternoon at 4 right here on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank that cares about your business and is invested in your success. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Chris Johnson, CEO of Classic Cinemas and proud customer of Signature Bank. We are a local family-owned business that is known for free refills on all sizes of popcorn, soft drinks, and ices. With over 9,000 heated recliners in 16 locations, we marry the traditions of the past with today's state-of-the-art technology. Throw in a 30-minute guarantee and an after-movie mint, and you have the perfect night out. As we strive to make every guest our priority, Signature Bank does the same with their customers. The team at Signature Bank is interested in taking my company forward. They have all the resources and solutions of the big banks, but they customize their offerings to meet my business needs. The customer always comes first with Signature Bank.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
We all know the importance of good daily habits, whether it's getting your steps in, stretching those limbs, or eating right. Doing it on the regular is key. That's why if you're dealing with everyday aches and pain, it's time to bring Relief Factor into your routine. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor uses a special formula of 4 natural ingredients. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. So call 1-800-4-RELIEF and try their 3-week quick start for only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Simply call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Wherever you're having pain, don't let it keep you from living the life you want. Make Relief Factor part of your daily routine. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF.
Does your garage floor look lousy with stained or cracked concrete, or even worse, bad epoxy or paint? Call Comer and Cross Concrete Floors now. During their end-of-the-year sale at 1-800-NEW-FLOOR right now, you'll get the best price of the year guaranteed, starting with $750 off. At Comer and Cross Garage Floor, they are the gold standard, guaranteed to never chip, crack, or show tire lift like epoxy or bad paint. And they'll make it so easy, they're in and out in one day. They'll fix your cracks, the pits, and they fix them perfectly the first time. They're certified, they're uniformed, they're employees. They'll even take the stuff out of your garage for you, whether you're in Chicago, Milwaukee, or Indiana. Now is the time to call them for the best price of the year, guaranteed, starting with $750 off right now during their end-of-the-year garage sale. Here's the number. It's easy. 1-800-NEW-FLOOR. That's 1-800-NEW-FLOOR, or go to COMERcross.com.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, tracking some traffic on the Edens. If you're inbound, it is solid between Elston and Montrose Avenue, about a 5-minute delay. The Kennedy inbound between Harlem and Montrose, about a 10-minute delay there. 20-minute delay if you're Eisenhower inbound between Manheim and Sacramento Boulevard. Tapping the brakes for a 12-minute backup if you're on the Eisenhower outbound between Kostner and First. Stop and go on the Stevenson inbound between Harlem and Western Avenue, about a 15-minute delay. On the Dan Ryan local lanes, inbound between 51st and Byrne Interchange, about a 7-minute delay there. Traffic building on the Jane Addams Tollway between Route 59 and Barrington Road. And traffic slowly coming alive on the Stevensons, inbound between Veterans Memorial Tollway and Cass Avenue, about a 3-minute delay. Also on the Stevenson inbound between Ashland and Dan Ryan, the ramp is slow to the inbound Ryan, about a 5-minute backup there. Traffic is a service of the daily podcast of Chicago's Morning Answer and the Sean Thompson Show. Hear both shows with limited commercials when you subscribe for free to the daily podcast at 560theanswer.com/podcast. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 86. Tonight will be clear with a low of 64. Tomorrow will also be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So President Trump got his rate cut yesterday from the Fed. Fed cutting interest rates by a 1/4 point. As the Wall Street Journal opined, not a surprise. But they also sent a contradictory message. They said they anticipate 2 more 25 basis point rate cuts this year and another one in 2026. Yet they also project that inflation is proving more persistent than anticipated. They now expect personal consumption expenditure inflation to hit 2.6% next year, up from 2.4%, which they predicted in June. They don't expect to hit their target rate of 2% inflation until 2028. So they're cutting rates even as inflation is expected to rise slightly. Yet the failure to get back to that target is the single biggest risk job hanging over the Fed as an institution. So how to square the circle, and also what does that mean? Well, what it means in part, if the Fed is right, is not only are you not going to see any relief in prices at the grocery store, for example, what you thought may be a slower rate of increase from the point we are at now is going to tick up even a little bit more. For more on this, please be joined, as always, by Scott the Cowguy Shellady, market specialist for Market Day Report, 10:30 to 1. He's also the host of the Cowguy Close, 1 to 1:30 Chicago time, both at RFD TV. Scott the Cowguy, thanks for being with us.
Good morning.
So, your reaction to the much anticipated and expected rate cut and those other projections, particularly about inflation, what that means.
Well, the Wall Street Journal is absolutely correct. The last 4 months, we've seen a steady but slow rise in inflation across the board. CPI, PPI, and PCE in general. Every now and again, you get a little bit of an abatement, but still, inflation is a story, and it's not going away, and nobody wants to talk about it. And there's another gauge that we look at for the amount of money in the system. It's called M2, money supply. And if there's a lot of money in the system, but you don't change how much stuff you can buy with it, I mean, that's the definition of inflation. And M2 spiked real high back in 2022 when we saw the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, at 9.1. Right now, our money supply is larger than it was back then. So there's more and more money in the system, and I think that that's what the Wall Street Journal is also referring to. So the money supply is spiked to all-time record highs, slowly but surely. And the reason why people aren't paying attention to inflation is because we keep meeting expectations month over month, but the expectation number is always a little bit hotter than it was last month. Inflation is going to be a story next year, or maybe even by the end of this year, and nobody wants to talk about it because everybody wants these rate cuts. So he gave us a 25 basis point cut. We all had to look at that dot plot thing. I've spent 39 years in finance, and this guy's got me looking at a Rorschach test. I can't stand that dot plot thing, but that's what everybody's talking about. And yeah, it looks as though we're going to get 3 cuts this year and maybe 1 next year. But remember, we were expecting 10 cuts at the end of last year, and we got 4. So everybody gets a little bit too excited about it. I mean, rates aren't crazy high right now. We are a little bit more. We are a little higher than a lot of our cohorts around the world. But, I also heard yesterday was, I'm going to give you a rate cut, and he called it a risk management cut. That's a little disappointing. And I really felt as though he was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cut rates, but and I'm going to make sure that I let you know that I'm apolitical. And I might even actually sacrifice the U.S. economy to that effect. So I'm so disappointed in how this is all, working out. He waited so long to cut rates, and he was hoping. I mean, I genuinely believe he wanted to make himself right and was hoping for inflation. In the end, he might be right, but it's taken him so long to get to this spot. So had we had those numbers from the BLS correct, remember that big jobs revision we got last week? Somebody even asked him the question, had you had the right jobs numbers? I mean, we took away more than half of last year's job growth in one fell swoop. Somebody asked him that question yesterday, and his answer was, well, you know how we just try to manage ourselves by looking out the front windscreen, not the rear view. That's not an answer. Yes, if you had those numbers, you would have definitely cut rates by now.
Right. If you knew there were 1 million fewer jobs created than was reported, would that have changed your view? How could it not have changed your view?
But he basically said no. So, I mean, the guy, this is a joke. I mean, I'm sure it's, I have a real strong opinion about guys like him, and there's 400 of them at the Fed. Believe it or not. I don't know how. I don't know how. And by the way, I talk about artificial intelligence on my show all the time. I love it, okay? I know there's going to be some bad stuff with it, but we always talk about those people that are at risk of losing their jobs because of it. And everybody used to say the man on the assembly line was going to be the first guy to go with technology. No, they're the last guy to go. Those folks, plumbers, electricians, welders, they're going to be in jobs for a long time. The middle manager, white-collar worker that just collates data and comes up with a plan or an answer to a problem, those guys are gone. That's what AI does. That's the definition of AI. And I think you could apply that to the entire Fed. There's no reason why we couldn't pump in all the stuff they're looking at into AI and have it come out with what should we do with interest rates. I mean, these people don't even shop at like you said, grocery store prices are still going up. And if we do have inflation come back, the man on the street, 80% of America, maybe even 85% of America that doesn't have a big stock portfolio or any stocks at all, or maybe doesn't even own their own home, they're not going to benefit from inflation. Inflation is going to make house prices and real estate go up, and it's going to make your stocks go up. And by the way, the rich are the ones that get richer, and it's not their fault. You can't get mad at them, right? When we have inflationary times, they own a lot of stuff. It goes up in value. And when the Fed tries to fight that and they raise interest rates, they got a lot of cash, so they start making a lot of money on all their cash because of the interest rates going up. They make money coming and going in inflationary times, and the man on the street's getting screwed, and that's the situation we find ourselves in today. Nothing's changed, and I think he was very disingenuous yesterday.
The problem of too much money chasing too few goods, does that get ameliorated at all with the forthcoming rate cuts and more productive economic activity, ostensibly more production?
No, I don't think so. I think we have to watch that money supply number. It's dangerously high right now, all-time record high. But I think the thing that could really kind of take a little of the air out of it is artificial intelligence. And again, I don't mean to go back to it again, but we're going to have some big productivity gains. And by the way, if you think about it, Dan, if I told you that we had the growth that we had in the economy this year after knowing everything we know, I mean, think about it. We took 1 million jobs out of the number we thought we had, and we were still that's a big shot in the arm for productivity, right? I mean, we must have been way better producing things than we thought we were because we had half the people doing what we thought they were doing.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, I think that's going to be a big help for inflation going forward. I think it's going to be a big help. That's going to be the thing that bails us out. We had an announcement this morning that NVIDIA is going to take a piece of Intel.
$5 billion.
Yeah. Intel stock's up 28%. So those are all really exciting things. And that's just, I had a guy on my show the other day. I asked him, where are we in the life cycle of artificial intelligence? Because we need it to help the situation out because we're going nowhere fast. But he says we're taking batting practice in front of a doubleheader. That's where we're at. So I think that's a pretty good way to put it. So I think we're going to get way more productive. That's going to help with inflation. It's not going to help with jobs. But inflation, the Fed's decided to worry about jobs right now and let inflation go, basically.
What's that? Speaking of the sort of industrial base and talking about jobs, since you mentioned the assembly line, Germany announced 125,000 industrial job cuts in 6 weeks. That would be like if the U.S. Lost like 300,000 factory jobs in that same period of time. Volkswagen, Mercedes, Audi, Daimler Truck, Bosch, the automakers there laying off a combined 111,000. Steel and heavy duty industry layoffs 11,000. Rail and transport 35,000. Postal and logistics 8,000. Tech even is about 3,500. SAP 3,500 in Germany. 10,000 they're laying off globally. What's happening in Germany, and is that any sort of canary in the coal mine for industrial production in this country? Yeah,
I think it is because we're going down that route. Our workers get more and more money. I mean, some of these people are making $40 an hour minimum, $38 an hour minimum wage in California if you work at the airport or a hotel. So they've got so many benefits built into their system over there. They're not competitive anymore. It started with cars, and now it's seeped into the rest of their economy. So absolutely, the more we pay our workers, the less competitive. Now, I'm not advocating for less worker pay, but we have to be careful about putting ourselves out of business by making the production so expensive. That's all. And we need to have more representation on our boards from the workers. I would love to see that. To bring it all back to, bring the circle back. But I think, that's a great, they're a Western country. They make a lot of good stuff, but they've been their own worst enemy because they priced themselves out of business. So we have to be careful about going down that route here.
And something else, too, you mentioned housing prices and, in an inflationary environment, housing prices go up and that further makes access to a home less possible for so many. Joel Kotkin has a piece over on Unheard. Joel Kotkin from Chapman University wrote the book, The Coming Neo-Feudalism, which is quite good. He's talking about Blackstone. Blackstone is in the news again, and he's talking about these zombie foreclosures. And The theory is simple. First, giant real estate funds buy up properties, deliberately allowing them to deteriorate. That takes homes off the market and drives up prices, especially when demand is so high and supply so persistently low. The upshot, a bonanza for investors, with firms like Blackstone betting literally billions of dollars on buying up American homes before renting them out to desperate tenants. If 28% of U.S. single-family homes were sold to investors in the first quarter of 2022, an 8% jump the previous year, the trend is increasingly popular on the far side of the Atlantic, too. Lloyd's, for example, he mentions Lloyd's Bank has plans to become Britain's biggest landlord. What about this issue of corporations gobbling up a diminishing supply of houses, with the scheme that is being described by Kotkin, and what sort of data is there any indication of this, I should say, in the data with respect to rising personal debt, rising incidence of foreclosures, any of those things that would indicate the separation that you were talking about between those with robust investment portfolios versus those who do not?
Great question and great topic too. I mean, obviously I don't like it because we do have a housing shortage, but they're not doing anything illegal. But I also have seen this before, right? I bought a house in Scottsdale 20 years ago, and in 2008, 2009, after that housing crash, those big investment firms were in there scooping up 300, 400, 500 houses at a time. And then they would bring in their own realtor, their own management company. They were all, their own do-it-yourself, fixing, painting, mowing companies. I mean, they were top to bottom fully integrated. And I think they still own some of them, but they were letting them go slowly but surely. But they were going out and raising money. And I sat through some of those money-raising events where you could give whomever, say Blackstone, $100,000, and they would manage your money for you. You only could get out of that trade when they wanted to let you out of the trade. It was a difficult thing to do. You couldn't just sell your stake. But what I'm trying to say is it's not new. But I think that it's part of the problem. There's about 4 or 5 issues when we talk about the housing shortage. One of them is going to be the lack of supply, which is true. One of them is going to be high mortgage rates, which is kind of true. The other one is the asset prices have gone through the roof because of bad money management, bad monetary policy over the last 6-8 years. I mean, when you make money free, what happens to assets? So the government's got themselves to blame for some of those asset prices going through. And then lastly, I think the biggest problem is, and I think this dwarfs Blackstone, would be the fact that the regulations to build some of these houses are absolutely ridiculous. Builders can't do it. That's why we have a shortage. They can't build. I mean, so now they're having to build them bigger, so they're not starter homes to be able to make sure they can get their money out because the permitting process is so bad. Case in point is Elon Musk moved his firm from California to Texas because he could get his plant built in Texas faster than he could get through the permitting process in California. So I think the biggest issue, even that dwarfs any of these investment firms scooping up houses and renting them out, waiting to sell them and owning a lot of them, I think it's this regulation that is strangling these home builders from flooding the market with good, cheap homes at reasonable prices for the first-time buyers to get on the ladder, because that's what you need to get on the ladder to move everybody up the ladder. I think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah, and don't even get me started on the pace at which homes are being rebuilt after the fires in the Palisades. Right?
Oh, my God. That's a great example. Yeah.
Scott the Cowguy. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
That's a case in point, and so is Elon. I mean, you can see it right in front of your face, but nobody wants to talk about that.
Scott the Cowguy Shellady, market specialist for Market Day Report, 10:30 to 1. Cowguy Close. He's the host, 1 to 1:30. Chicago time, both at RFD TV. Scott the Cowguy, thank you as always.
All right, man. Have a great day.
You too. You joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for. For this free information, call 800-422-1609, 800-422-1609, 800-422-1609, or simply visit godra.com.
It was a typical day. You were doing the usual, but then you met up with a friend at Weinstock Market and Lounge in Woodstock. Wow! The small-town charm and turn-of-the-century building set the tone for a classic outing. Their charcuterie pleased your palate like you never imagined. The Chicago beef sandwich made your taste buds dance. And the hand-selected wines from small vineyards around the world, so perfect. All paired with amazing live music. Weinstock Market and Lounge changes your day from ordinary to extraordinary.
Weinstock Market and Lounge, voted McHenry County's best wine shop and best of Fox 2 years in a row. Open Tuesday through Saturday, 3 p.m. till 11 p.m. Live music on weekends. Open mic nights on Tuesdays. Enjoy the fresh baked pizza and Chicago beef sandwiches. Wine favorites from Italy, New Zealand, France, and California. And a full menu of handcrafted cocktails. Plan a trip to Weinstock Market and Lounge on the square in downtown Woodstock. Mention AM 560 and receive 10% off any purchase.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. And right now, AM 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty with their Generac. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
Arvid, he fell asleep in the Perry sleeper again.
Come on, Ben, wake up.
Go away, I'm hibernating.
You can't hibernate.
I can in the Perry sleeper. It has 5 extra inches of sleep space.
And no painful bar in the middle of my back.
I'm going back to sleep. I set an alarm.
For what time?
April.
The Perry Sleeper, American-made with your choice of fabric or leather, and no metal bar digging into your back. Starting at $44.99 at Penny Mustard.
7 Chicagoland showrooms.
PennyMustard.com.
They say timing is everything in the gold and silver markets, and it's true. Dennis Prager here for AmFed Coin and Bullion. Although you can buy at the right time, if you buy the wrong coins, you may not make a profit. When gold was $400 an ounce, many people were talked into buying high-grade old gold and silver collector's coins. Unfortunately, most of the people who bought these so-called semi-numismatic coins, like the $20 St. Gordon's and Liberty Head gold coins, have not broken even on their investment. Incredible, given that gold has risen approximately 525% since then. So while timing is everything, if you buy the wrong coins, the timing simply doesn't matter. Having a dealer who cares about positioning you in the right types of coins or bullion will mean more to your portfolio than anything else. That's why I deal with Nick Rovich and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. Or go to AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com.
Unreadable, inconsistent part marking is more than a nuisance. It's a liability. When your part marks fade, your quality and credibility also fade. GT Schmidt helps manufacturers leave a permanent mark on their products. Laser, dot peen, scribe, and roll marking systems. Our machines engrave everything from serial numbers, date codes, certification marks, barcodes, 2D matrices, and logos on metal, plastic, anodized coatings, and more. GT Schmidt laser systems provide high speed, versatility, and durability with non-contact precision. Harsh environment, rugged parts? GT Schmidt pin markers produce deep, reliable marks. Parts small or large, flat or round, we engineer systems to your specific application. GT Schmidt, the name for dependable part identification and traceability, setting the standards since 1895. Right now, save 10% off standard GeoMark Pro lasers and standard Styliner pin markers. Visit gtschmidt.com for the marking machine that's right for you. Made in the USA. GT Schmidt, your mark made to last.
AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, coming up at 7:37. Trump has deemed Antifa a terrorist organization. Is it? We'll talk to former federal prosecutor and former staff member with the FBI's 9/11 Review Commission, Joseph Mareno, about that at 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning, 59 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. John Cruz here in the newsroom. Starbucks employees in 3 states claimed the coffee giant violated the law when it changed its dress code while refusing to reimburse employees who had to buy new clothes to meet the standards. Workers filed class action lawsuits in Illinois and Colorado. Baristas in California lodged complaints with the Labor and Workforce Development Agency there. More on that deadly officer-involved shooting in York County, Pennsylvania. 3 officers dead, 2 others in critical but stable condition. The shooter was killed by police. They're calling it a domestic-related incident. Authorities say one of 3 people killed in a shooting in Berwyn is Lincoln Middle School assistant principal Narissa Lee. Cook County authorities have yet to identify the others killed, including the shooter. Classes are back in session today there. And Illinois reporting its first West Nile virus death. State health officials say the victim is a resident in their 60s in suburban Cook County. Last year, there were 13 deaths statewide. News is a service of the AM 560 Advantage. Membership has privileges, including early access to event tickets, exclusive contest opportunities, and special members-only content. Join today at 560theanswer.com/join. We're checking traffic coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Your home is a valuable asset, and you want to take care of your home. From roofs, siding, windows, and doors to furnaces, flooring, landscaping, and much more. Listen to your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio every Sunday morning at 9. Presented by Lang Home Medical Equipment, Valdecast Windows and Doors, and by JeffBuysYourHouse.com. Get answers from industry experts so you can make informed decisions about your home improvement. Right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Sean Thompson here, and I'm with attorney Bert Hochberg from the law firm of Schiller, Ducanto, and Fleck. We're talking about divorce arbitration. This is not really a new, or is it a new, innovative way to go through divorce?
Arbitration has been around for decades. It's completely legit and available to resolve divorce cases. The litigants and their lawyers sign an arbitration agreement. They identify what the issues are, and we set up dates, and we determine what experts and witnesses there may be. Arbitration is a hearing, a trial that is intended to finish a case efficiently with limited appeal, with a binding decision, and it's confidential, so it has some great characteristics.
I think it's a unique alternative to divorce. For more information, please visit sdflaw.com and type Bert Hochberg into the search box. That's sdflaw.com or call direct 773-255-6150.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. That does give us certain advantages, for example, in experience and resources. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. If you're a guy facing divorce, remember, Cordell & Cordell, a partner you can count on.
105 West Vandalia Street, Edwardsville. CordellCordell.com.
You're great at protecting your data, but lots of places could still expose you to identity theft. If that happens, LifeLock gives you the U.S.-based restoration agent who will stick by your side from start to finish. Phone calls, filing documentation, preparing insurance claims. Your agent handles it all. In fact, they're so confident restoration is guaranteed or your money back. It's nice to have an expert like that on your side. Save up to 40% off your first year with promo code Beck at LifeLock.com. That's LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Viking, dedicated to creating travel experiences for the thinking person, with programs designed for cultural enrichment on board and on shore. Discover more at Viking.com.
In the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, watching some issues creeping up on the Kennedy inbound. Solid traffic between Foster Avenue and Montrose Avenue, about a 10-minute delay there. Also on the Kennedy inbound between Montrose and Chicago Avenue, about an 18-minute backup there. On the Eisenhower inbound, stop and go between 25th and Western Avenue, about a 35-minute backup there. The brake lights are on. 10-minute delay on the Eisenhower outbound between Kostner Avenue and First Avenue. The Eden's looking good this morning. The outbound between Montrose and Niles Center, about a 5-minute delay there. DuSable Lakeshore northbound between Stevenson and Monroe Drive, about a 10-minute backup if you're in the area. On the Dan Ryan, looking good. Local lanes inbound between Chicago Skyway and Byrne Interchange, about an 8-minute delay. And on the Tri-State Tollway, slow traffic if you're on the exit ramp on the northbound off-ramp to the westbound Eisenhower Expressway. This report sponsored by Discover. Guess what? Discover's accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. You heard right, 99%. If you don't think so, maybe it's time to face the facts. You're stuck in the past. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report. Learn more at discover.com/credit card. Chicago's Morning Answer is next, but now check out your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 86. Tonight, skies will be clear with the low of 64. Tomorrow, expect similar conditions with a high of 84, a mix of clouds and sun and continued warmth. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Yesterday, President Trump posted this on Truth Social. I'm pleased to inform our many U.S. patriots that I am designating Antifa, a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization. I will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Antifa, terrorist organization. What does that implicate? Well, it implicates a lot of federal resources, potentially. Kyle Scheidler had a good piece over at the American Mind. He's the director for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism at the Center for Security Policy. His piece, How to Dismantle Far-Left Extremist Networks. There's an interesting sort of compare and contrast to how the federal government here does it as compared to the governments in Western European nations. Some similarities, some differences. One of the things that he writes is too much of the categorization of extremist organizations, domestic terrorist organizations, has been sort of ideology neutral in terms of category. You know, it's the neutrality because you're trying to capture both those on one side and the other. For example, and that includes, racially or racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists. That's a group. It theoretically includes both black and white supremacist groups, but of course, in practice, the United States government spends its efforts targeting white supremacist groups and underemphasizes black supremacist groups. So, he goes on, for example, other categorizations. While federal law enforcement devoted 12 informants to the Governor Whitmer kidnapping case, which collapsed at trial over questions of how much of the plot was inspired by the government itself, all evidence suggests it completely neglected to investigate the John Brown gun clubs, which have conducted numerous armed Antifa attacks on federal officers in multiple places around the country. I mean, we saw Antifa all but policing the streets of Portland during the aftermath of the George Floyd rioting, during and after. The president, writes Mr. Scheidler, must direct the creation of the far-left violent extremist category and implement its immediate use across all departments and agencies. While the actual name is up for debate, it must explicitly include anti-fascist, Antifa, anarchist, autonomous Marxist, socialist, Marxist-Leninist, Maoist, and communist extremists, and ensure that these distinctions are accurately and correctly defined. He argues that this approach is not radical. In fact, it's used by American allies like Germany's Ministry of the Interior's Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution, which defines far-left extremism in precisely the way that he describes and has those subcategories that are delineated in reports that are compiled by the government and made available for the German people annually. He goes on to say, for too long, the government, media, and academia have minimized the extensive threat posed by far-left extremism, treating it as merely examples of single-issue activism. But cases like the BLM riots, Defend Atlanta Forest, Jane's Revenge, and the Palestinian campus encampments have all demonstrated that for far-left extremists, changing names and logos before taking action on behalf of your changing cause is standard operating procedure. By siloing these cases in different categories, federal law enforcement fails to document and fails to understand the danger posed by the far left at the strategic level. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Joseph Mareno, former federal prosecutor with the Department of Justice in the National Security Division, former staff member with the FBI's 9/11 Review Commission, and a U.S. Army combat veteran. Joseph Mareno, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan. Good morning from Washington, D.C.
Great to have you. So what do you think about both the president's announcement and this sort of, it's just a bit sort of inside baseball, but this organizational and strategic approach that is outlined by Kyle Scheidler over at the American Mind?
Well, Dan, the designation of Antifa, it's kind of been a long time in coming. When the riots happened in the last year of the first Trump administration in 2020, he explored this. At the time, Bill Barr at the Justice Department and Chris Wray at the FBI looked into it pretty extensively. Then, of course, the Biden administration came in, completely discarded this, turned a blind eye to left-wing extremism, and to the extent they paid any attention to these groups, of course, they focused on what they alleged were right-side groups. So it kind of died on the vine. Now that Donald Trump is back in, though, it's long overdue, but it's fantastic that he is focused on Antifa as both an ideology and a group of terrorist cells. And by identifying it, to your point, the number one thing is resources, right? So now this becomes a purely federal focus, but with the benefit of working with state and local authorities as well. So you're going to see task forces that are put together for the sole focus of identifying, infiltrating, investigating, and hopefully prosecuting cells of Antifa movements. And so it's a good thing. It's not a magic bullet. I would say all the hard police work still has to be done, but it both brings resources and it puts a spotlight on a group that has operated largely in the shadows, but has actually caused a heck of a lot of damage over the years.
And it also gets to this network, the network infrastructure that I don't think people appreciate. You see like these people behaving badly on the streets, even violently on the streets, and think, oh, this is some sort of thing that was organically generated by something that happened, or as was described here, it's a one-off fight at a park or on the streets over a particular issue. But in fact, when you start digging in, as was done here, you see how the money flows through nonprofits that are policy advocacy organizations, foundations. There's crowdfunding as well. And I mean, there are myriad organizations that are involved in one form or fashion with supporting a group like Antifa.
Absolutely. I think that the gaslighting that we heard for a long time, that these were spontaneous, individual, peaceful protests, has been debunked for a long time now. Money flow, coordination, recruitment, even training of individuals. I would equate it a little bit to the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a movement that's existed for decades in the Middle East. It's not itself been identified as a organization, but like many terrorist organizations, it contains autonomous cells, groups that have been designated like Hamas and Hezbollah and ISIS and Al-Qaeda before that. And they operate very specifically because they're basically rabbit holed. So if one is infiltrated or one is prosecuted, it does not know what the others are doing. That's a very specific model that we've seen terrorist groups use. And we believe that's what's happening here in the United States with Antifa. So it's long overdue that we're going to focus on this group. And I think the most stark example is probably very likely that there was some involvement here with respect to Tyler Robinson and the assassination of Charlie Kirk last week. He's made specific references to family members that were understanding about the fact that he took this ideology and he felt that Kirk was spreading hate and needed to be silenced. He made very specific Antifa-type etchings on the shell casings, as reported by the Governor Cox of Utah, and now in the indictment that came out yesterday, the charging document. Now, it's not proven, and I'd like any lawyer, I would say we got to see the evidence and see what happens at trial, or if Mr. Robinson confesses. But what we're seeing here is an extension of exactly this ideology. And if it does turn out that there was any kind of coordination or encouragement of what he did, then that's really important, because that goes to exactly the heart of what we're doing here, which is to say, it's not just an individual, not just a spontaneous group of people. This is a much more funded and organized movement.
Well, and to that point, I mean, this is an individual. She is, he is a trans woman, Iranian, and apparently the head of the group Armed Queens that has now come under scrutiny in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. This is the guy who's the head of this trans woman that's the head of Armed Queens, Urmia Fanayan, on whether or not violence is the legitimate means to political ends. Take a listen.
Some people say that it takes a violent protest to get people to listen. Do you agree, or should they remain peaceful?
I agree. I absolutely agree. I'm a member of the LGBTQ community, and our liberation and our rights came after the Stonewall riots. That's something that a lot of people don't like to talk about, is that, the LGBTQ movement started with Stonewall riots. I wouldn't even be able to be a student at this school if it wasn't for a violent riot that took place within a span of 3 days. So I absolutely agree that sometimes violent protests and really riots and those kinds of loud rebellions must take place for tangible change.
I can see why queer... Armed Queens, I should say, is under scrutiny, can't you?
Sure. And whenever you have a group that's coalescing under a name with membership, with funding, they should be scrutinized. And again, I'll say, as any good lawyer should, no one should be presumed guilty. No one should be presumed complicit.
Right.
But yeah, they should be investigated. And when they make references to things like that their rights were violated, and they're somehow trying to justify rioting or looting, that's where free speech gets into something criminal. And I'm hearing also a lot since last week's assassination of Kirk, a lot of talk, well, there's First Amendment rights and there's hate speech, and that Kirk purportedly perpetuated hate speech, and that somehow justifies violence. I don't even like the term hate speech. That really has no legal meaning.
Yep.
It's speech. Speech is distinct from violence. You can say all kinds of awful things. And I'm not saying Kirk did. I actually think he was a really profound guy, and lots of stuff that people are alleging to him is simply third hand, that they didn't actually listen to themselves, or they were very selectively listened to. But let's just say, you know what? Let's say, for argument's sake, he offended people, right? He exercised his First Amendment rights to free speech, and maybe some people didn't like what he said. Nothing that he said justifies violence. And so I think that should be just understood. Now, and free speech on its own should not be investigated. If that speech is tied to violence, or the instigation or the training or the funding or the recruitment of individuals that engage in violence, that's what's illegal. So I think that people who kind of hide behind this, say, well, I can say whatever I want and I can retaliate against someone because what they say offends me so much, that's not legal. We're talking nonsense now. And so I think that's really important for people to understand.
There's also a lot of laws that not restrain people from expressing themselves so long as they are stopped short of violence, but have professional implications. And I'm not just talking about Jimmy Kimmel. For example, just going back to this piece, once you designate Antifa a terrorist organization, the Department of Labor, there's a Labor Management Reporting and Disclosure Act, which prohibit persons who are convicted of certain crimes from serving as a union official, an employee, or a consultant. And often some of these individuals who cross the line from legitimate speech or protest into violence and participating with a terrorist, participating and facilitating a terrorist organization, come out of the union movement, particularly the public sector union movement. And so just in terms of, operating under the law to impose legal consequences to people who cross that line. There's if you go agency by agency or sort of topic area by topic area, there are some real tools at the disposal of the federal government.
The government has every right to restrain from giving a security clearance or even an uncleared employment to someone who has been convicted of crimes, whether they're part of a terrorist organization or not, whether they are whether they're violent or nonviolent. The government has every right to restrict or even terminate someone's employment. The private sector also does, and there has been a lot of talk about Jimmy Kimmel and whether ABC had the right to fire him because he was exercising his views on his television show. Of course they did. I mean, that's his employer. I have an employer. If I come on your show and say something ridiculous or offensive or inaccurate, my employer has every right to punish or even fire me. So that's very different than a First Amendment right. And so people that are kind of getting themselves tied in knots about whether a government employee is terminated because of something he or she posts on social media, or that Jimmy Kimmel was terminated because of something he said that was very offensive on his show, those are legitimate things. And so the First Amendment right is not absolute when it comes to either the government or whether it comes to a private sector employee.
No question. It's a restraint on government, but it doesn't insulate you from professional consequences. I mean, those two things are distinct. Yes, 100%. And that you're right. People are conflating the issues in some cases purposefully. I wanted to get to your reaction to something else, though, too. I mean, just because of a lot of associated topics with the Kirk assassin. And that is, the Discord group, this gamer culture, this furry culture, the trans culture. Something that Kash Patel testified to this week in committee, he talked about a network called 764 that is convincing children to mutilate themselves and take their own lives. This is quoting him. Under the counterterrorism and domestic terrorism umbrella are nihilist violent extremists and those that label themselves 764 who wish to go online and convince children to maim and mutilate themselves and commit suicide. He even talked about one person that is now in federal custody for doing exactly that. But I mean, just sort of the threats online in this whole conversation about domestic terrorism, you're talking about maybe not specifically in the Charlie Kirk assassin's case, because there was definitely political ideology involved there, but just the violent nihilism and the online radicalization as this whole category of terrorist interdiction.
Well, you can't. So the First Amendment free speech stops at what, of course, threats. Right? You can't defame somebody and you can't threaten someone. There's also a number of protections that come in when you're dealing with minors. So I would argue, and I would be comfortable bringing a prosecution against someone who is found to be encouraging, particularly a minor, to mutilate themselves. It might not be a threat as we traditionally think of it, but I think a case could absolutely be made that if you're encouraging someone under 18 to harm themselves or kill themselves, I think you could definitely see a criminal case being put together like that. Again, it's regardless of whether you are part of a terrorist organization or an ideology or you're simply acting on your own. I think there's definitely a basis there.
Yeah, and we've seen people acting on their own, like in in a known relationship with somebody where there have been prosecutions, successful prosecutions, for essentially aiding and abetting the suicide of a minor.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, as there should be.
Joseph Mareno, former federal prosecutor at the Department of Justice and the National Security Division, former staff member with the FBI's 9/11 Review Commission, and a U.S. Army combat veteran. Joseph Mareno, thank you as always.
Dan, thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. And Joseph Mareno joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
Don't get stuck with a cold shower this fall. Give CenterGuard Plumbing a call. Get a new 40-gallon water heater installed for just $1,195 for standard installation, or a 50-gallon heater for $1,295 standard installation. A proud new sponsor of AM 560, CenterGuard is offering specials on new water heaters. Don't wait. The cold temperatures are coming, and the same can happen to your water heater. If you're having hot water issues or your water heater's over 8 years old, take advantage of this fall special today. CenterGuard Plumbing is Chicagoland's same-day water heater experts. Call before noon and they can schedule your repair or install the same day on in-stock water heaters. They'll even haul away your old one no charge. You're only a text away from install today. Call 847-406-8883. Mention AM 560 to receive fall special pricing. That's 847-406-8883. Call or text 847-406-8883 or visit CenterGuardPlumbing.com.
Raj Shah, host of Unleash Your Wealth.
You know, there are a lot of clients and people coming in from the radio into our office saying, I don't want to lose any money. I need to protect the money I have saved over the last 20 or 30 years, where you have strategies where you can structure an income stream where it has an inflation protection so that as inflation, if it continues to go up, your income will go up.
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Sean Thompson here, and I'm with the team from Access One, the founder and chairman, Mark Joswiak, and vice president, Enzo Scafidi. We're talking about how Access One can help business with their IT challenges. I'm guessing that cybersecurity is a huge concern. And in Access One, does it take different steps? Does it evolve? Is it always monitoring? Is it similar to some of the other entities I see out there that monitor the dark web and all of that?
You name it, we do it. Our biggest focus is cybersecurity. So everything we do is from a security perspective. Every action we take, everything that we put in place is all coming from the vein of security. That's why we do everything. And we have experts on staff that help build and design everything we do for our customers.
If your business needs help with managed IT, cybersecurity, or voice technologies, you need to contact the team at Access One. Learn more at access1inc.com. That's access1inc.com. Or call them directly today at 1-800-804-8333.
If you or someone you love are getting high quotes for dental implants, visit almostfreeteeth.com today. With a medical PPO insurance plan, it's possible to save 90% off on average to be able to smile again. Check if you qualify now at almostfreeteeth.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up, 8:08. Some mentioned Kash Patel in his testimony before both the House Judiciary Committee yesterday, after the Senate Judiciary Committee the day prior. Some fireworks there. Got to hear the exchange with Swalwell. It's just too good. And then we'll also get to Bibi Netanyahu's remarks on Charlie Kirk's assassination and those that attempted to implicate Israel in it. That's at 8:08. Now now it's the top of the hour. Time to check the headlines. 8 a.m. AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Honoring Charlie Kirk. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Congress plans to do that in a House resolution that'll be voted on this afternoon, 8 days after Kirk's assassination. And we're learning more about the suspected gunman's arrest.
Some information was provided about Tyler potentially having some suicidal ideations, was en route to a remote area of Washington County. The parents convinced him not to do that.
Sheriff Nate Brooksby says Tyler Robinson was quiet when he turned himself in with his parents, who after getting threats are now staying far away from Utah. The same goes for Robinson's roommate, who he reportedly confessed to professing a hatred for Kirk. Now, what Jimmy Kimmel said about the suspect, suggesting he was right-wing MAGA, has Kimmel off the air. ABC suspended the show indefinitely.
He first made these statements the day after Kirk's murder. He began with this quote: "With all these terrible things happening, you would think that our president would at least make an attempt to bring us together, but he didn't." Then, on the following Monday and Tuesday, Kimmel claimed the MAGA gang was trying to capitalize on the murder and score political points.
Fox's Chanley Painter, the SAG-AFTRA media union's critical of Kimmel's suspension, calling it the type of suppression that endangers everyone's freedoms. But President Trump, in a Truth Social post, congratulated ABC. The president is now at a meeting in Britain with business leaders and Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
There's so much to celebrate in the special relationship between our two countries.
Making those ties closer than ever before. We've done some things that financially are great for both countries.
And the two just signed the new U.S.-UK technology investment agreement. 2 police officers are in critical but stable condition the morning after 3 other officers were shot dead in York County, Pennsylvania, where Fox's Brian Yennis reports.
This all started after police responded to a domestic-related investigation that began on the previous day. The situation, though, quickly devolved into a deadly shooting with dozens of police responding.
The gunman was shot dead in return fire. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning, 63 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm John Cruz in the Quick Delivery Service newsroom. Sunny and 82, chance of rain goes up into the weekend. New details in connection with that deadly shooting outside a grade school in west suburban Berwyn. Lincoln Middle School Assistant Principal Narissa Lee, her mother, Jocelyn Everidge, and her husband, Stephen Lee, were the 3 people killed on Tuesday afternoon. Police say the man took his own life after shooting his wife and mother-in-law in a domestic incident. Lincoln Middle School resuming classes today after shutting down yesterday. 2 officer-involved shootings in Chicago overnight. The first in the Austin neighborhood. A man walking around Madison and Lockwood carrying a large knife around 11 last night. That prompted a call to 911. Officers deployed tasers, which didn't work. That's when they fired a shot hitting the man. He's in serious but stable condition this morning. A second shooting on the south side around 9 last night around South Langley Avenue. An off-duty officer approached by a man, again with a knife. That's when the officer fired his gun, hitting the suspect in the legs. He's in stable condition. CPD continues investigating. A majority of Chicago voters ruling out tax increases proposed by Mayor Brandon Johnson's Financial Future Task Force. A new poll shows 11% of those surveyed support raising taxes before the city cuts spending. Now 16% support locking in annual property tax increases at the rate of inflation. The Johnson administration currently addressing how to tackle a more than $1 billion budget deficit. The Blackhawks opening training camp Wednesday. The team also conducting physicals, and today will hold its first on-ice session. The preseason opener next Tuesday against the Red Wings in Detroit. The season opener will also be against Detroit on September 30th at the United Center. And the Cubs are playoff bound after clinching at least a wild card spot last night. The Cubbies will play postseason ball for the first time in 5 years. This news update is service of Quick Delivery Service. When you need same-day delivery, when you need the fastest service, when you need a last-minute delivery. Go to quickdelivery.com and get a quote right now. That's quickdelivery.com. We're checking traffic coming up in 2 minutes. Now time for the AM 560 Business Beat, sponsored by Signature Bank.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Intel shares are up 28%. NVIDIA says it will invest $5 billion in Intel, with the 2 tech companies co-developing multiple generations of custom products for data centers and personal computers. Olive Garden's parent company, Darden Restaurants, is raising expectations for the year after a 10% jump in sales. Darden also owns Longhorn Steakhouse and other chains. Though sales rose, earnings were disappointing. American Express just revamped its Platinum card. The fee will be going up $200 to $895. Stock futures are higher after the Federal Reserve lowered short-term interest rates yesterday and suggested 2 more cuts are coming. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
Town Hall News, where conservative voices cut through the noise from breaking headlines to fearless opinion. We report what matters without apology. Written by people who actually believe what you believe. Town Hall tells the stories the corporate press buries, from President Trump to Capitol Hill. From pivotal elections to your everyday lives, join the movement at townhall.com. Real stories, real reporters, real conservative media.
Attention investors with a 401k, IRA, or retirement account. The dollar has lost over 25% of its value in the past 5 years, and it's only going to get worse. Are you prepared for what's about to happen next? We are Advantage Gold, the #1 customer-rated gold IRA company in America, and we are helping Americans prepare for the great de-dollarization by diversifying their portfolios with physical precious metals. We've partnered with former chief economist of the IMF, Kenneth Rogoff, to give away his latest book called Our Dollar, Your Problem, a must-read for investors. Call 800-741-GOLD, and we'll rush a free copy of Our Dollar, Your Problem to your doorstep and include our special gold IRA investing kit, valued at $49. The dollar is losing value fast. Call 800-741-GOLD now to get your free copy of Our Dollar, Your Problem and our free gold IRA investing kit. Supplies are limited. Consult your tax and financial professional before investing. Call 800-741-4653. That's 800-741-GOLD.
We all know the importance of good daily habits, whether it's getting your steps in, stretching those limbs, or eating right. Doing it on the regular is key. That's why if you're dealing with everyday aches and pain, it's time to bring Relief Factor into your routine. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor uses a special formula of 4 natural ingredients. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. So call 1-800-4-RELIEF and try their 3-week quick start for only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Simply call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Wherever you're having pain, don't let it keep you from living the life you want. Make Relief Factor part of your daily routine. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF.
From the Team Hawkburg Traffic Center, traffic is an issue on the Eisenhower inbound between 17th and Ashland, about a 45-minute delay there. Plan ahead if you're in that area. Kennedy inbound between Central and Montrose Avenue, about a 5-minute delay. 20-minute delay if you're Kennedy outbound between Western and Montrose. That's solid traffic there. Kennedy inbound between Montrose and Chicago, about a 35-minute delay there. Cars are stacking on the Bishop Ford between 103rd and Dan Ryan. The Eden's looking okay. Eden's outbound between Montrose and Gulf Road, about a 10-minute delay there. Brake lights are alive on the Tri-State northbound between 87th and 47th Street, and the Tri-State northbound off-ramp slow traffic if you're going to the westbound Eisenhower Expressway. Finally, the Veterans Memorial Tollway, northbound slow traffic between I-55 and Reagan Memorial Interchange. Traffic is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you can save 90% off on average to get your smile back. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. I'm John Cruz. Chicago's Morning Answer is next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 86. Tonight will be clear with a low of 64. Tomorrow will also be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Forever Remodeling. Stress-free and high-quality remodeling. View their stunning transformations online at the number 4everremodeling.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Yesterday, we talked about ABC reporter Matt Gutman. Quite a week for ABC between Matt Gutman and Jimmy Kimmel. Matt Gutman's reporting on the press conference that was held by that Utah County District Attorney detailing the charging document, the charges filed against Charlie Kirk's assassin, including reading a portion of the text exchanges between the assassin and the dude he was dating who was transitioning to be a female. And Gutman's summary went like this.
We have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate who was transitioning, calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing it in front of children, which is one of the aggravating circumstances of this case. And on the other hand, he was, speaking so lovingly about his partner. So a very interesting and, as Pierre said, riveting press conference.
Yeah, the duality. Gosh, you're such textured, layered reporting, Matt. The duality of him. It's in part love story, when he's not assassinating people that he disagrees with. Well, Gutman, responding to the blowback, posted on X, yesterday I tried to underscore the jarring contrast between this cold-blooded assassination of Charlie Kirk, a man who dedicated his life to public dialogue, and the personal disturbing text read aloud by the Utah County attorney at the press conference. I deeply regret that my words did not make that clear. Yeah. You were so close, though. And he goes on to say, but let there be zero doubt here. I unequivocally condemn this horrific crime and the pain it caused Charlie Kirk's family, those who were forced to witness it, UVU, and the millions of people he inspired. I didn't hear an apology in that. No. But this is of a kind of reporting you get where the DC Press Corps runs interference for the most vile, horrific people and the crimes they commit. I mean, it's just a couple of weeks removed from that Ukrainian girl, Irina Zarutska's murder on that train in Charlotte. Just as gruesome, just as horrific. And this was Van Jones, you recall, on CNN, trying to generate some empathy for the murderer.
We don't know why that man did what he did. We don't know how to deal with people who were hurting in the way this man was hurting. Hurt people. What happened was horrible. No one mentioned the word race, white, black, or anything except him.
Hurt people. And he was criticizing Charlie Kirk then for mentioning the race of the assailant in the Zarutska killing, suggesting that he and others like him were racializing this, and there was no racial component to be found. Of course, Van Jones had no problem racializing Daniel Penny and his heroism on a train in New York, but had a real problem with people racializing the killer of Irina Zarutska on the train in Charlotte. But it doesn't mean that I want the FCC to signal that CNN is potentially subject to regulation, or ABC News is over the reporting, the terribly sentimental sophistry masquerading as reporting from Matt Gutman, which folds in the Kimmel issue. But when it comes to speech and policing from a cultural sense, not a censorious sense, that certainly includes people on the right. I mentioned the Candace Owens assertions yesterday. Among them that Charlie Kirk's views on Israel were evolving prior to his untimely death, and that he was threatened by people within power circles who are Jewish, including Bill Ackman. That Bill Ackman attempted to, the billionaire hedge fund guy, that Bill Ackman attempted to stage an intervention with Charlie Kirk. And Candace Owens characterized it as putting Charlie Kirk in duress. Well, that was completely repudiated by Bill Ackman. And basically repudiated by Charlie Kirk's, the executive producer of Charlie Kirk's radio show. But that hasn't stopped Candace Owens.
No one, and I mean absolutely no one, outside of my husband and Erica Kirk has the power to shut me up right now. That's it.
Okay. Well, Charlie Kirk's pastor has responded to Candace Owens. Charlie Kirk was my friend and I was his pastor. Rob McCoy is his name. I want to simply say this regarding Candace Owens. Charlie Kirk was a friend to Candace and never publicly spoke poorly of her, though he disagreed with her. He never operated nor entertained gossip or innuendo concerning Candace. My only comment I offer regarding Candace is this. I only wish at this tragic time of mourning she would be the friend to Charlie that he was to her. He would have never treated Candace or her family in such a way had, God forbid, this tragedy been hers. A friend loves at all times. J.D. Vance has tried to tamp down this back and forth on the right between like a Tucker Carlson and a Candace Owens and others. Perhaps some additional backstory here. Eric Bolling, you remember him from Fox News. Now he's on which one? I mean, he's got a podcast, but is he on Newsmax? I can't remember. Anyway, he was on a podcast. He is a TP, Turning Point USA board member, and he had this to say about the relationship between Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens. Now, this is him feeling the need to comment because of Candace Owens' assertions that are being refuted by many within the Charlie Kirk inner circle.
Early on, 2011, 2012, 2013, they were tight. They grew TPUSA like crazy. I was shocked to see her leave until being part of TPUSA, her theories got just a little bit too down the rabbit holes. It was too extreme for their taste. And Charlie, to his credit, kept a cordial friendship with her for years, but it hasn't been a communication pipeline back and forth between the two for many years. That's why I don't know why we give Candace Owens' assessment any weight at all.
You're on the board of Turning Point?
Yeah.
Okay. When's the last time you saw Candace Owens?
In person?
Yeah.
2015, 2016.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, when's the last time she was at a Turning Point event?
Not in many years.
Okay.
But
so let's without even being biased.
Is
Candace even involved in Charlie Kirk's life at all?
No question, proof that Candace Owens has nothing to do. She would be in a perfect world if they didn't have this. What I already know was a very quiet breakup where she got too rabbit hole for him. She would be the logical heir to the TPUSA throne, but she's not.
And now she's not even invited.
Correct. So this is so their divide is.
Wait a minute, not invited meaning
she's not even there.
Yeah, she's not
there.
So for those who suggest that I've been avoiding Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and these issues and the disagreement within circles on the right, I haven't been. Happy to take it on. Need to take it on now. Forced to. Ambassador Mike Huckabee, U.S. Ambassador to Israel. It's painful to see people back in the U.S. attempt to get clicks and make money by making up outrageous lies while exploiting the death of Charlie Kirk, whose impact and character the propagandists will never have. And he points people to a video statement that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made that, according to Ambassador Mike Huckabee, sets the record straight. Here's that BB video.
Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, said that the bigger the lie, the faster it will spread. Well, somebody has fabricated a monstrous big lie that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's horrific murder. This is insane. It is false. It is outrageous. Charlie Kirk was a giant, a once-in-a-century talent who defended freedom, defended America, defended our common Judeo-Christian civilization. Charlie loved Israel. He loved the Jewish people. He told me so in a letter that he sent me just a few months ago. One of my greatest joys as a Christian, he said, is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews to protect Judeo-Christian civilization. He encouraged me to make the case directly to the American people about how vital Israel is to U.S. national security. He told me, the Holy Land is so important to my life, it pains me to see support for Israel slip away. Now, if Charlie disagreed with a policy of mine or a decision here and there, not only did I not mind, I welcomed it. This is the essence of Charlie. This is the essence of a free country. It's exactly what Charlie stood for. And I knew that his suggestions always came from the heart, from his love for Israel and from his love for the Jewish people. A few weeks before his death, I spoke to Charlie. I invited him to visit Israel again. And sadly, that won't happen. Now some are peddling these disgusting rumors, perhaps out of obsession, perhaps with Qatari funding. What I do know is this: Charlie Kirk was a great man, and a great man deserves honor, not lies. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. May your memory be a blessing.
J.D. Vance tweeting out, to my friends on the political right, I understand the feeling that people are putting words into Charlie Kirk's mouth. At some level, I agree and share your frustration. Try to remember, a lot of people love Charlie. It's natural for them to debate his views and his legacy. In fact, I think Charlie would welcome that. But for now, let's celebrate our friend, remember his impact, and save the debate for after his funeral. Well, Carol Markowitz, our friend, columnist at New York Post, responding to J.D. Vance, Charlie would welcome his friends Candace and Tucker basically calling him a grifter who said one thing in public and another in private. I doubt it. No, I don't know if he would have called him out on it, but yeah, I don't know if he would have welcomed it either. But it's a problem. And it needs to be addressed in something approximating real time. This is not something that was brought on by Bill Ackman or Eric Bolling or Bibi Netanyahu or Mike Huckabee. Bill in Plainfield, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning, Dan. How you doing, man?
Morning.
Hey, I wanted to announce a couple things. I know you've talked to guys from my group before, the Trump Illinois MAGA official. We hold a lot of events in Illinois. Station One Smokehouse in Plainfield, a restaurant out there, stepped in it, saying that Charlie Kirk was killed for his beliefs and MAGA's responsible. We asked them to take the comments down, and they tripled down on it. The owner, wife, even started insulting people on Facebook. So we're having a rally there Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m., a peaceful rally with a little prayer vigil for Charlie. We're catching a lot of heat. They're telling people we're segregationists. We want to get rid of the First Amendment, which I find ironic because they used the Second Amendment that they hate to take out Charlie because they were afraid of what he was espousing with his First Amendment. The other thing is, on Sunday in Homer at Mora Brothers on 159th Street, we're going to be broadcasting on a big screen the Kirk Memorial. We got bagpipes, we got speakers, and we're wanting people, if you love Charlie Kirk, his message, and you support him, and you're tired of the liberal left accusing us of being things, please come out and support both those events, because it's really important that we stand up to these people and stop them from insulting us, because the small percentage of liberal few that is driving this narrative hate us, and they want to silence us, and we can't be silenced anymore. And I think we have to show the same verve that the Democrats do and show up in numbers and be heard, because we've been silent too long, and it's time to stand up, Dan.
All right. Thanks, Bill. So again, the events on Saturday and Sunday, just repeat the locations and times.
Saturday is 4 to 7 at the Station One Smokehouse in Plainfield. and the other one is at Mora Brothers at 159th Street, Mora Builders, in Homer.
Okay, very good. All right, just thanks for the call, Bill. Make sure you allow the left to continue to show everybody who they are, present the contrast. Kevin in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up this topic. I've kind of been watching the ins and outs of it, but I think it's disgusting the way that some on the right are talking about it. I think J.D. Vance is trying to come in and say, hey, guys, let's stop, we're arguing about the will, and he's not even in the ground yet. I think it's absolutely disgusting. And if you're upset, focus your ire and anger on how the left is responding to this. I think that's the most important thing. We'll figure out, who's the, Charlie's successor and all that later. But I just find it so upsetting.
Well,
and I'm not saying, I'm glad you brought up the issue. So.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Gavin. Well, I would say this. I mean, this is, Charlie Kirk's views on Israel is just the latest example of the divide between, factions within the conservative ranks. Some of the things that Candace Owens has said, and Tucker Carlson has said and platformed, versus the beliefs that a lot of other conservatives have, myself included. And so, this is just a microcosm of a much larger issue that is not limited to Charlie Kirk, and it's much more about the conservative movement's posture towards Israel, towards anti-Semitism, and frankly, towards conspiracy theorizing, towards an understanding of history. Matt, Southside.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Real quick, I know Erica Kirk's going through a lot right now, and, she doesn't have time to be addressing all these issues, but do you think she should do it sooner rather than later? Because Candace Owens pointed out that maybe somebody like her can silence her about these beliefs, and that's what gets me nervous. Like, why can't she come out and say, hey, listen, this is not true? I mean, she gave a whole speech the other day on the news. Maybe address this quickly or put a statement out on social media just so she can quell this.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for the call, man. I don't think it's. I mean, I think what Charlie Kirk's pastor said is probably the salient point here. I mean, you really want to put his grieving widow in this position right now? I mean, again, Candace Owens has fomented this by saying things that have been, I think, pretty persuasively repudiated, including from, as I said, Kirk's Inner Circle as executive producer on his radio program. But she persists. So, I don't think this is on Erica Kirk to address, particularly not in this time, maybe in her own time. Glenn in Orlando.
Yeah, hey, Dan. I remember a few years ago when Candace Owens said some really nasty things about the Jews and their history, and it caused Dennis Prager to write a letter, and I read that letter. I think it was like 18 pages, to asking her questions about, her ranting about the Jewish history, and she never responded. And to Dennis, and Dennis was pretty even keel on his letter, just asking for facts, and Candace never responded. So that's when I started to lose. Candace lost credibility with me.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, thanks for the call, man. Yeah, it's another example of an old story about who we choose to elevate, including within the conservative ranks. But we'll save that for another day. Mike on the north side.
Morning, Dan. I was listening earlier and heard the local story about the Napleton family and some of the comments made by a representative and a member of the family there. And just wanted to provide a little bit of perspective and distinction. That family's been in business since 1931, and they've done a pretty nice job preserving their reputation for the most part. However, as that umbrella has become wider, there are still 4 different men that are probably between 65 and 75 years old that own the organization, and all of their branches are completely separate. And I've used the analogy in the past that while they all might have the whiskey title on them, bourbon and scotch are completely different. And the comments made by Maureen certainly don't represent those of the entire company and would be exclusive to the umbrella of Ed Napleton rather than the remainder of the group.
Thanks for that, Mike. Well, actually, but Maureen Napleton then, she's the legal counsel at Napleton Auto Group in Hinsdale. So is that, I don't pretend to know the nuances of the business. Is that just one separate branch of the Napleton Auto Group then?
That's correct.
Oh, and so who's the principal there? Who's the CEO there?
That would be Ed, and then his sons, Brian and Eddie, kind of run point on day-to-day stuff. But then from there, you've also got Bill and Paul and Steve that own their own individual branches of the Napleton Group, and their sizes would vary a little bit. And Ed is by far the largest, and so a lot of times the reputation is his. And
Maureen is Ed's daughter.
Correct.
Yeah. If somebody texted me about this too, and I said, I don't know them, but I know people, as I said, when I mentioned this, I know people that know Steve and they speak very highly of him. I know people that know Ed and they speak very highly of him. So I'm sorry for the Napleton family, but it's just one of those things where somebody in that position saying those things, she apparently wanted the attention, so now she's got it. And so this is not me calling for a boycott of Napleton Auto or trying to conflate Napleton or anything. It's just me focusing on this one person who lives in Western Springs. Of course she does. I was a guest Hinsdale, but apparently she lives in Western Springs, and said just, indefensible things. And I hope maybe within the Napleton family, they have a discussion about those things. Father, daughter, I'm not trying to intervene, but I'm just saying you can't say these kinds of things in this kind of time and expect, in the position that she's in, and expect you won't get attention.
Yeah, and I certainly understand the reason it got attention, and having been close to that family for a number of years and working for them, I thought it's worth noting the separation sometimes,
sure.
Because I've been stubborn on other things before, and I've decided that maybe I'm not going to purchase Nike products for various reasons, and would hate to see that the entire group of people working for them has diminished opportunities for earnings based on what one person said that isn't necessarily representative of everybody that's going to work for them.
That's fair. That's very fair. Thanks for the call, Mike. I appreciate that. Yeah, this is for specificity, but this is, now in print and news stories. So it's online, DuPagePolicyJournal.com. But this is about Maureen Napleton and only Maureen Napleton. At least it is for me. No comment on the Napleton Auto Group. No comment on any of the other Napletons. Just this person and what she said in this time. And for somebody who is in that professional position, it is shockingly irresponsible and immature. Shockingly. Coming up at 8:38, pleased to be joined by Marco Charles, who's an ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations, the ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations Acting Executive Associate Director. More discussion of Operation. Why am I blanking on it? More discussion of ICE operations in Chicago and what's coming next. That's at 8:38. Well, now we check the headlines.
Good morning, 64 degrees in Chicago and AM 560 The Answer. I'm John Cruz in the AlmostFreeTeeth.com newsroom. Mainly sunny today and 82. A key CDC vaccine advisory panel set to start a 2-day meeting today. Some of the new members have expressed skepticism of vaccines in the past. This comes after the Senate Health Committee, chaired by Senator Bill Cassidy, heard from the ousted head of the CDC. Students are headed back to Lincoln Middle School this morning, 2 days after a shooting outside the school left the assistant principal dead, 2 others as well, including the suspect. A Chicago-based network expanding their operations to protect the Jewish community. Secure Community Network expanding its real-time threat management data, which monitors thousands of online sites and distributes that information. The operation says it's managing the highest threat environment against the Jewish community it's seen in decades. 3 officers dead in York County, Pennsylvania. 2 others remain in critical condition after a domestic-related incident. The shooter killed by police. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you can save 90% off on average to get your smile back. Check if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of traffic coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Catch more money with leading economist Steve Moore.
I'm excited about America. I think things are going really well. I think we've turned a corner here. I think Biden economics is well behind us now. This is a miracle what's going on here. If anything, it's better than I thought it would be. So many good things happening in the economy. Low inflation, low unemployment rate, consumer confidence up, business confidence up. All of the indicators are pointing north right now.
It's More Money, Saturday at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call CrossCom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, CrossCom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with CrossCom.
Call CrossCom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call CrossCom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. CrossCom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call CrossCom.
CrossCom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with CrossCom. You can trust us with your home or business for high-quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CrossComPublicAdjusters.com.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. And right now, AM 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty with their Generac. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
Welcome back to Ask Hassleus.
That big online store has special days with ridiculously low prices. So why don't you?
We do.
You do? When?
Every day. Our 35 beds from the top 5 brands start at $393. Free next day delivery, too.
Wow.
Yeah. Plus, through Monday, get a free box spring or take an equal amount off an adjustable base.
I guess you could say that now is a prime time to buy.
Open 9 to 9. Find an employee-free showroom near you at hassleus.com.
This hourly segment brought to you by Unleash Your Wealth with Raj Shah and Rick Borick this Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. Learn more at scwealthadvisors.com.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, we've got some trouble spots around the area. Eisenhower inbound between 1st Avenue and Ashland Avenue. About a 43-minute delay in the area. Traffic on the Edens backing up a bit if you're outbound between Montrose and Church Street. About a 20-minute delay there. Stop and go in the Eisenhower if you're outbound between Cicero and the Reagan Memorial Tollway. About a 20-minute delay as well. If you're inbound on the Kennedy, you're going to add about 35 minutes if you're between Montrose and Chicago Avenue. DuSable Lakeshore, you're going to be tapping the brakes if you're northbound between Stevenson and Monroe Drive. 10-minute backup there. On the Dan Ryan local lanes inbound between Chicago Skyway and Roosevelt, about an 18-minute delay there. And finally, the Stevenson inbound between Harlem and Western Avenue, about a 25-minute backup in the area. This report sponsored by Discover. Guess what? Discover's accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. You heard right, 99%. If you don't think so, maybe it's time to face the facts. You're stuck in the past. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report. Learn more at discover.com/credit card. I'm John Cruz. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but a check of your forecast now from the National Weather Service.
Today will be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 86. Tonight, skies will be clear with a low of 64. Tomorrow, expect similar conditions with a high of 84, a mix of clouds and sun and continued warmth. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. And again, Cook County Board President Tony Prewinkle, she feels good, had a big press conference yesterday with a bunch of her sycophants to repudiate Operation Midway Blitz, saying that it is causing concern in the community and mistrust of law enforcement things that a sanctuary county politician would have to say to defend their untenable position.
These practices create fear in our neighborhoods and erode trust in law enforcement. Plainclothes agents, unmarked cars, and the refusal to provide identification are not hallmarks of transparency or accountability. Instead, they raise the risk of abuse, intimidation, and impersonation. This is unacceptable.
Unacceptable. How is Operation Midway Blitz going? I've seen the reporting that suggests 250 persons in this country illegally in the Chicagoland area. Many, if not all, who pose a public safety threat have been taken into custody. But for details on it, pleased to be joined by Marcos Charles, who is the ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations Acting Executive Associate Director. Marcos Charles, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan, thanks for having me on the show.
So can you give us the drilled, I mean, if you want to respond to Tony Prewinkle and Brandon Johnson and J.B. Pritzker and the rest of them, you're welcome to do that. But in addition to that, the breakdown of what Operation Midway Blitz has produced so far.
Yeah, no, so first off, again, thank you for having me on the show. We've been operating Operation Midway Blitz since last Saturday. Since then, we've apprehended several hundred people, definitely over 400. We're looking at the worst of the worst. Some of these people that we're arresting been arrested and released from these sanctuary areas, such as the Illinois and Chicago area, for sexual assault, kidnapping, rape, sex offense against children, aggravated assault, firearms, DUI, drug trafficking, human trafficking. I mean, this is the list of the worst crimes that are out there, even including indecent exposure and some with terrorism ties. So these are the people we're looking for. As far as being out there on the street with unmarked vehicles and not in uniform, not showing any identification, every one of our officers out there is identified with their agency. We have some of our DOJ partners out there with us, but every ICE officer is out there marked, and we have marked ICE units out there, and we are also being supported by CBP and Border Patrol, who are out there in marked units they're also with their Border Patrol and CBP placards on. So everybody that's out on the streets is very well identified.
It's so funny, the complaint about them being unidentified, because then they have these whistle operations that they set up that anytime somebody in a particular neighborhood, like Little Village or something, I saw one example, anytime somebody sees what they believe to be an ICE officer, they blow a whistle, and then other people blow a whistle, and so everybody can scatter, which is, a telling response to federal law enforcement on the one hand, but also just on the matter of identification. If the average man on the street can identify an ICE agent readily enough to blow the whistle on him, as it were, then it's they're hardly operating like some sort of special ops unit.
Yeah, very much so. We do have our special response teams out in the area to help us out in case we get into a pickle. However, we're out. Those guys are also making criminal arrests. We have criminal warrants that we've taken, that we made some arrests with also. But we're out there. The rhetoric that's coming from social media and from some of these politicians is not only dangerous to the community, but it's dangerous to our officers. When they encourage people to run from us or try to evade capture, it just turns out badly for everybody involved. The fact that these sanctuary laws that have been instituted in Illinois, where local law enforcement agencies aren't allowed to cooperate with ICE, is just ludicrous. I mean, the best way and the most safest way to get this done is for these police departments and sheriff's departments to hand over these criminals straight to ICE, so we can then get them from handcuff to handcuff in a safe setting within a jail or a sally port, so they get into our custody and we can remove them.
Of the 400 round number, the 400 people you said have been taken into custody since Operation Midway Blitz started, how many, if any, were taken into custody simply for being in the country illegally and nothing else? No public safety threat, no other criminal warrant, no other, terrorism-related threat or anything like that? How many?
Dan, you broke up a little bit there, but I think you're asking me how many don't have any kind of criminality. Was that the question?
How many have been taken into custody whose only crime is being in this country illegally? They don't have any other related public safety threat profile.
Yeah, I don't have the exact stats on that, but I can tell you right now off the top of my head that the majority of these people do have criminality of either an arrest or arrest and conviction, or an arrest for a crime.
And the incident that happened in Franklin Park, where that a Mexican national in this country illegally, but had been in this country illegally for a long time, as if that's some sort of you get immunity if you've been in this country illegally for a certain amount of time. I don't know what, but that seems to be the way that's reported. But that incident that happened, where the report was that ICE tried to detain him. He then tried to flee, used his car essentially as a weapon, and injured another ICE officer who responded in self-defense and ultimately killed him. There was a call for body cam video to be released, and the reporting was that there were no body cams on during that incident. So can you just give us whatever details you can on that incident, and also what the protocol is for body cams with ICE agents as they're conducting operations?
Yeah, so I can't go into details about the entire incident because, of course, it's still an ongoing investigation with the FBI. However, I can tell you that the officers that were involved weren't wearing body cameras. Currently, ICE is still rolling out their the body camera policy. So it's mainly a pilot program right now, and not all of our officers wear body cams. However, the fact still remains that this individual decided to listen to that dangerous rhetoric and try to escape using his vehicle as a weapon and seriously injuring our officers. And the officer involved did use his training and properly his training that he received throughout, and properly used the force necessary to make sure that individual not only ceased to hurt the officer, but kept him from hurting anybody else out on the streets as he sped away.
Can you just walk us through enforcement and removal operations, how it works? So these guys start, they get up and they gather at say 6 a.m. in the morning on a day like today. And then what are they doing as part of Operation Midway Blitz? How does their day unfold as they conduct their enforcement operations? What does it look like?
So they go to bed early, wake up super early to get prepared for the target list that they have for the day. We have using intelligence and any recon that we can get done prior to, we make sure that we have enough information on the individual. The officers then will go out to the areas that we believe this individual may be in, house, apartment, whatever information we have. If we have vehicle information, we use that also, locate that individual, and then depending on the situation, either go to the door or wait for the individual to leave his or her location, and then effect the arrest. That individual then will be once arrested will be taken to a location for processing. Individuals then processed by a different team. The arrest team then goes out looking for the next target. And then after processing for that individual, they'll go through their due process and go through removal proceedings unless this individual already has a final order removal that has been given to him by an immigration judge. And then we will put that individual on the next possible flight to whatever country that person's from.
How do you rank order prioritize the pickup list on a daily or weekly or monthly basis?
We look primarily for the baddest of the bad. However, we do have, within that list, you have a list of people that have committed crimes. Maybe they're not, terrorists, but they, have an aggravated assault on a police officer or a weapons charge or, a DUI. It could be any crime whatsoever. And if you're working, for example, if we're up in Schaumburg and there are on your list, you have 6 people living in Schaumburg, we're going to try to get all 6 that are living in that area, during that day.
And is there any sort of time horizon, the surge in resources under the heading Operation Midway Blitz? Is there any finite time period that there's going to be this increased presence in Chicago, or is it open-ended?
It's open-ended. It's an indefinite suspense date on this currently. We'll be out here doing the surge operation, indefinitely. However, I can say this: even once the surge has slowed down, we've always had a presence here in the Chicagoland area, and the officers that work this area will continue to do so.
Well, what's ICE's role, either sort of as a standalone or in collaboration with other agencies, when it comes to trying to find more of those unaccompanied minors that disappeared into this country under the Biden administration? We talked quite a bit about the report last week that almost 23,000 unaccompanied minors have been located by the federal government. Unfortunately, more than 24 are dead. There have been 400 arrests made. This was Fox News's reporting on this. So, all the fraud within that program of not vetting the sponsors for these minor children and them being exploited or worse. This is all starting to come out. But the more important thing is the work that's being done to actually find them and try to bring them into a place of safety. And I'm not sure I understand exactly what ICE's role is in that sort of combined effort.
So, thanks for asking the question, Dan. So ICE has a huge part in that. We're working with the HHS hand in hand and our other federal partners and local law enforcement to identify those, to look, find those children and make sure that they are with either an appropriate sponsor, get them to where they need to be, and also investigating the sponsors, because as you know, prior administration was pretty much just handing anybody out of sponsorship to hold on to these children, and unfortunately, some of the people that they release them to are bad people and have exploited the kids or abused those kids, and we just want to make sure that they are returned to their parents. And make sure they're in a safe location, whether those parents are somewhere in the United States and we can get them all together, or return them to the country with their parents where they came from.
So that basically you're doing the vetting after the fact that should have been done on the front end, working with whatever information you have on sponsors that were given these unaccompanied minors, and then trying to locate those who you don't have a fix on at this point.
100%, sir.
Marcos Charles. Sorry, go ahead.
It's a daunting task.
Well,
we're out doing it every day.
I know it's hard to quantify these numbers because of the lack of vetting and record keeping and so forth. But I mean, there have been estimates: 80,000 unaccompanied minor children, 130,000. Do you have any idea what that number is?
I wish I could give you that number off the top of my head, but it's up there in that area for sure.
Marcos Charles, ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations Acting Executive Associate Director. Marcos Charles, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate your time.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
So how long were you told you'd be on that medication you're taking? That's what I thought. Question, do you believe it's possible for you to be set free of the medication you're currently on? Or will you be stuck taking it forever? Not to mention all of the side effects. Imagine what it would feel like to be drug-free. You know, the United States makes up less than 5% of the world's population, yet we use over 85% of the world's supply of medication. That's 95% of the world using 15% of the leftover medications, with over 53 other countries living longer than we do here in the United States today. So instead, let's help your body regain its health naturally. Begin your adventure in health with us today by calling our HealthQuest radio hotline and reserve your very own new patient strategy consultation with me. Call 800-794-1855. That's 800-794-1855. Oh, and listen to HealthQuest Radio with me, Dr. David Kolbaba, every Saturday morning at 11.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss and your gain. MyPillow is offering the Classic Collection for wholesale prices. Only $19.98 for a standard MyPillow. But it gets even better. For a limited time, they're going to offer the entire Classic Collection at wholesale prices. Get queen-size MyPillows for just $24.98. Upgrade to king-size for only $29.98. Get the body pillows for $39.98. And the multi-use MyPillows for only $12.98. So go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 to take advantage of wholesale pricing and receive $100 in free digital gifts when your order is $75 or more. That's right. Get the standard MyPillow for only $19.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. That number again is 800-489-0201. Promo code LIBERTY.
You know what really keeps me up at night? It's the criminals feel more and more bold. They have no fear of any consequences because there are none. So I did what anyone with a family should do. I called Goldilocks. They're not just some cookie-cutter security company. Goldilocks has been protecting Chicagoland homes and businesses for 4 decades, 40 years. And they actually listen. Their technician comes out to the house. He takes a look at what you need to make your house a smart home with a security system you can monitor from anywhere. It's built specifically for me and my family. Motion sensors, smart locks, cameras, monitoring, all customized. I don't trust anybody in Illinois to protect my family. I do it, and I did it by calling Goldilocks. I trust Goldilocks to keep my house, my property, and my family safe. Tell them Sean Thompson sent you, and Goldilocks will include 3 months free monitoring with any new installation. Call Goldilocks at 708-899-5600. That's 708-899-5600. Or visit them online at GoldilocksInc.com.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Bob Chivato, owner of Go Exceed and a customer of Signature Bank. By leveraging AI and machine learning, we provide data management solutions for corporations to save time and money managing their cellular devices. While we rely on machines to help us run our business, we believe personal relationships are essential. This is why we chose Signature Bank. Having a banking partner who understands our background, our business, and our priorities is fundamental to our success. Any bank can provide basic services, but having a bank that you can trust, one that looks out for you and treats your business like its own, that's irreplaceable.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Call Signature Bank at 773-467-5600 or visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere. Delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Pluto TV.
Want to see if you could pay less in taxes? Try the quick and easy tax calculator at willsave.com. Yes, a free tax calculator. That's WILSAVE.com. Calculate how you could keep more of your hard-earned money and give less to Uncle Sam, especially in retirement. Get your free tax analysis today at willsave.com. And don't forget to tune in to Protecting Your Assets with Steve Shyman every Saturday morning at 8, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
AM 560, The Answer.
Thank you for joining us on another edition of Chicago's Morning Answer. Good discussions today. Appreciate all the calls and comments. We'll have another program tomorrow to close out the week. It is now 9 a.m. on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
He's making another deal with Britain. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
There's no more natural partnership in the world. Together, we're building up the industrial capacity of both of our countries, which is crucial to our defense.
President Trump sitting next to Prime Minister Keir Starmer, signing what's called
the Tech Propensity Deal, which includes joint efforts to expand AI models for healthcare and also quantum computing capabilities.